Alright then. Hello everybody. We're back with Cultist Simulator. Um, this is admittedly a little later than I normally like to start this sort of thing, but I do technically list the start time as between 7 and 8. So, and then I had a false start, so for those of you wondering about that first video, it's because I was tagged as playing Daggerfall. So we're going to continue on with our Edge playthrough. If you are... Oh, you know what? I should maybe try and put these in a playlist or something. I'm going to have to work that out. If you are new to the game, we're fairly early on in our playthrough here. There is one video. If you're watching on Twitch, it should still be up for another week. If you're watching on YouTube, there should be a video. It probably won't be from a week ago because I know there's always a bit of a disjoint. If you're ever curious about why basically the cultist stuff is on Twitch, so much, you know, for a big lead-in, I believe if I premiere something on Twitch, I'm sort of expected to keep it exclusive to that platform for 24 hours, and then after 24 hours, I can put the upgrade up I can put the you know, the content up anywhere. One unfortunate side effect of this is my original. So, I mean, I can't complain about this. This is obviously a much bigger thing than I had ever intended it to be when I started streaming. But when I had started with, you know, ages ago, whenever I sort of picked something along the lines of Monday, Wednesday, Friday for streaming, that was largely with a mind to it being, this is all of the time that I'm going to spend on this. And when you consider the amount of time that it takes for a broadcast, that's actually a fairly substantial part of your week when you really think about all the other things that that you want to do, or at least I want to do. Maybe other people just have more straightforward schedules than me. But look, I mean, I could not I could not be happier with the way things have gone. You know, I'm able to see cool games like Cultist Simulator early on and be able to share it with people who I probably in a previous time would not have been able to show it with. And then, you know, things like Imperator Rome and Stellaris and Surviving Mars, and, you know, all of these things are a lot of fun to share. But they take time, and I've been feeling the effects of just trying to keep it all running for a while. It doesn't mean I'm going anywhere. It's just it's becoming a little bit more clear. One of the reasons for this too is that I have not taken a vacation at work. I used to have this problem when I worked in film too. I work and I have, you know, like bank holidays, public holidays that even when I try and say like I won't stream on those days, I usually wind up doing that. So all of this is to say, all this is to explain that while in a perfect world, and yes, you know, 100%, you know, you just need to type something up and push a button. That is true. It is a mechanically simple procedure to do that. But it is nice to not sit in front of a computer. I was actually doing my taxes a little while ago, and I needed to claim the streaming stuff. And part of that included the cost of the computer. And one of the things, like, I am embarrassingly scrupulous about my taxes. Like, if if it's a couple of dollars of interest, you know, in a savings account somewhere, that's on the form. And so if you use something for personal use, you need to, you know, you can put the capital that you put into setting something like a Twitch stream up, you can put that on your taxes. But you do need to delineate what part was for personal use and what part was for the commercial use. And I was like, okay, well, you know, that's, you know, gaming computers probably more of a personal expense. So like I sat down and I like factored out, you know, how much time have I spent on this thing, and how much of it was broadcasting. And I was actually shocked to find out I don't really do anything with this computer but stream on it. I still claimed a certain percentage is private, just because, you know, I'm sure at some point in the future I'm gonna use this thing for, like, you know, I'll do like a private game or something like that on it. But anyways, it's just one of these things where that made a little more sense to me in terms of like why I'm not as ready on things. Like there are points where I actually just don't touch the computer. I do still game on my laptop, but that is essentially why I'm a little late on these sorts of things, and I do apologize for it. I don't know if there's a culture in YouTube of people visiting a channel for like a regular day to see some new content, or if people just, you know, if they just get the notification if they want to get it and it's up. But I don't know, if it is troubling people, I suspect probably getting something like once a week would be ideal, but I don't know if the specific day matters. And if it does matter to you, as always, you can feel free to drop me a comment and I'll do my best to go in. I already know, you know, as much as possible and as soon as possible is the preferred delivery method. So that message I've gotten loud and clear. But any other particulars, I'll do my best. Anyways, that excuse out of the way. Mr. Gagne has been busy, and I'm very happy to see Claire is added to the list as well. So welcome to Cultist Simulator. Follow us at www.weatherfactory.biz. If you have not checked that out, please do. It's a really fun little record of the journey this game has taken. And at Factory Weather on Twitter, I always vlog the Twitter handles, so it is another one that's worthy of watching. To learn about upcoming updates, if you find a bug or the game is crashing on you, do let us know at support@weatherfactory.biz. Thank you, Lottie, Alexis, Claire, and Mark. Version 2019-5A1 fixed incorrect lore result from Azim, fixed dual cults bug again. Working with health should now always spawn the time verb. Recipe outputs should now separate out stacks of decaying items to avoid some related bugs. Element and aspect detail windows can now be closed by clicking anywhere else if a situation window isn't open. Certain identical notification messages, e.g. can't merge cards, will no longer stack. Fixed the lesser crossroads not being unique. Fixed certainly legacy specific items getting passed down to the bright young thing. Ensure high-level edge assassination attempts have a penalty for failure. This will be important for my playthrough, I think. Fixed Victor sometimes morphing into Valsine. I am very sorry that I never got to see this bug. Fixed Dartman ignoring fatigue as a valid target when attacking the player. It is no longer possible to start a recipe while dragging any token to prevent certain recipe bugs. And fixed painting not always correctly accounting for the level of passion. I feel like I've actually encountered this one before, and I just didn't recognize it as such. So, given that the version news is updated, we should probably see... yes! No? Interesting. I'm gonna have to submit this to, I think I'm gonna have to submit this to the list. So if you look at the mobile app, the credits are actually different, but design, writing, and coding, Alexis Kennedy; production, marketing, and biz, Lottie Bevan; UI design and coding, Martin Nerukar; art, Catherine Unger, Clark Cuckoo, Lottie Bevan, Sarah Gordon. The lovely music that you're listening to and is available separately as a download through Steam or wherever you get your music. Mary Beth Solomon, Brent Barkman, Mickey Erb for Mickey Mar Productions Limited. Audio by Sound Cuts. Additional writing by Lottie Bevan. Additional coding by Fraser McCormick, Chris Payne, Mark Gagne, also known as Lyra Zeiter, and an incredibly nice gentleman. And now a member of the Weather Factory team proper. This is also true of Claire Sharkey, who does not yet have a credit. And additional design by Callan Porter. Special thanks to Sonia and PK, Matt Hosty, Haley Urias, and literally everyone who's ever sent feedback or a bug report. Thank you. Hello, Pax Cecilia Pones. I believe you are the first one to speak in chat. I know there's a few people watching, but Without further ado, we continue the story of Lord Bullingdon, the bright young thing. So let's take a look at the situation we find ourselves in. We've got a handful of followers, so Valsine, Enid, Violet, Porter, and Rhaenyra. I've got an experienced swindler. This is to deal with the Perils of Renown that's coming up. Now, I seem to remember that I had a couple of activities that I wanted to do before certain things exhausted and whatnot. So let's just take a quick look at what my verbs are doing. So we know that this is going to gobble up all of the mystique and eventually the notoriety. I'm probably painting in work. Troubling in the air, the sun flickers like a shadow, dreams ripple behind the surface of mirrors. I must be careful not to drift from the waking world. So we don't have any fascination yet. My mystique has attracted this hunter's attention. They can prove nothing yet, but they'll keep looking for longer now. We have got the Season of Sickness coming up next, but I am still reasonably well off. I've done competent work with 4 notoriety. Let's see if I can keep doing that. Although maybe I just want to let one of the notoriety get hit, just so I can use the swindler right away. We're currently tracking down a rumor. Oh well, that answers that. So that'll generate notoriety from getting another acquaintance. We are studying Jensen's The Burning of the Unburnt God. One of the main reasons why I wanted to do this one is so that I can get access to a rite, so that I can start summoning things if I so choose. Jensen hypothesizes a pre-Zoroastrian fire deity whose rites were the rites of smiths. Entering the wood, I now pass between the scar-barked trees. The moon passes behind branches, though her fingers remain in my hair. I am stumbling over roots now. It is tempting to drop to all fours to avoid the low branches. Pale wings move deep in the night. And finally, we've got, speaking of esoteric matters, so I'm talking about the Barber's Warning, the lowest level moth influence. I do rather like this one. Aspect requires intuition. Without time and peace, the answers sometimes come unannounced. To upgrade or subvert this fragment, I'm a little curious here. So, aspect requires knowledge. This is a puzzle with missing pieces. I might find those pieces in odd corners of scholarship. To upgrade this or subvert this fragment, you'll need erudition or an HQ with a library. I wonder if this means that there are the new study mechanics are in. Pain is only what happens now. Knowledge is what we will remember. Red secret. Intuition. Interesting. Alright, we might have some new toys to play with tonight. I don't know. Let's take a look. Magic. Okay, so I can use another peculiar rumor. The risk, of course, is that I'm too heavy on notoriety, but I do think I'm at the point where I want to try and grow my numbers. So we are going to go back to the wood. While I was returning to the depths, one appeared in front of my eyes, whose mouth was sealed. When I saw them in the great emptiness, I cried out. I think that last night I met another soul in the wood. I will never recall exactly what we said one to another, but I think that we will recognize each other in the waking world. So this might lead me to someone I need, or it might mean something else entirely. Explore with a rumor to follow up on it. I have exhausted my passion. This is one thing I don't like about my layout, is that I don't have a good sort of method of dividing or sort of cycling these bits. But that's life. It's not perfect. Okay, my recent work has accrued modest fame, so I've got my notoriety, my contentment, which I don't remember if I had a spot for my temporary boon, so I'm going to put those here. More glimmering, which is great. I'm seeing if I can try and upgrade my my skill, my imagination ability. Imagination, whatever it is. This one's a bit harder. I need 4 lessons learned. I've got 2, and I also have a collection of poetry that I can read. So it's within our grasp, but it's not ideal. So are those recent changes to the lores? It seems like a big improvement if it does what it says. Yes, Pact. We do know that Weather Factory is working on We do know that Weather Factory is working on the improved study mechanics. I don't know if they were implemented in the game yet. It didn't say it in the patch notes, but that doesn't mean that it isn't in there. So we'll find out. It could also be something that'll be coming in with the next DLC, and they're just sort of, you know, the updated cards are already put in, and then the mechanics that'll make those things work will come into the game later. But one way or the other, I'm gonna enjoy what I have in front of me, and we'll see if we get some new experiences during the playthrough. So here I'm just gonna keep cycling through painting. It seems to me to be the best way for me to you know, to keep my funds up. And I don't have the edge to deal with Janning's commission, so at this point, just being able to talk to people about the unknown is probably the best use of my time. Likewise, with dreaming, I do know that I'm going to be getting sick at some point, so I do need to worry about that. But for now, I might as well just make what I can out of the you know, out of the resources that I have. I'll explore the peculiar rumors. I'll use my reputation to line my pockets, and we'll deal with the consequences later. The text sounded promising, like it would have solved a source of frustration you had with a small part of the game in terms of feeling like you figured the puzzle out but couldn't get the tools to move on. I never really thought of it that way, but I see where you're coming from, Pax. This is one of the drawbacks, of course, of being somebody who played the game early. The series of things that I found counterintuitive are not necessarily the same as what, you know what, I think I'm going to put these here. They're not necessarily the same as what I encountered, and that's just because my introduction was very different from other people's. I'm going to see if I can double up this, that's passion, not glimmering. Anyways, I'm going to see if I can double up this glimmering on time. Hello, Zero Player Game. Yes, I'm sure some people were very confused about the meme and the going live tweet, but it isn't just completely random. I am playing as the Church of the Bright Edge, and of course we're a bright young thing, so it all hangs together, or we'll all hang separately. I'm just gonna shift these over a little bit. Now I've got my restlessness, so that's pretty much an insta paint right there, so no worries there. And we'll have the peculiar rumor in a second. There we go. So more notoriety. I'm assuming this is going to be what the detective uses. All that effort for a hanger-on. Fair enough. And we will investigate the next one. So I suspect that at the end of this story, I may find someone who will hear what I have to say. And as with all hangers-on, usefully malleable, but they'll probably never amount to much. Okay. Jensen ultimately concludes with apparent reluctance that the deity was a goddess. He suggests that the gender may have been the cause for its suppression. The rites described are often eerie, sometimes grisly. So this is an ardent orison. I believe that would be Valsine's column. And we've got the Rite of the Crucible Soul. This rite uses an instrument of power to set the blood afire. Fire is the lesion in the skin of the world. The assistant rarely survives unharmed. So I'm going to put these down at the bottom of my lore stack for now. I think what's probably going to happen is I might need to move the influences further left, and we'll make the lore over here. But for now, I'll try, I guess, one over to the side there. I'll try and make this all line up if I can. So, well, thank you, Zero Player Game. I actually forgot to mess with the resolution. I wonder if I can. Actually, you know what, guys? I'm sorry. I know I did a little bit of a longer story. This completely killed the flow, but I did promise that I was going to adjust the resolution. So let me make this a little more palatable. I used to play on 1050 and people didn't seem to mind that. The problem is this is a big, beautiful monitor now, which I've really been enjoying. The wood grows around the walls of the Mansus. As any student of histories knows, the Mansus has no walls. Christopher Elopoli, traveling at night. Explore, take risks. You won't always know what to do next. And I've never get to finish that line. Yeah, it looks so disappointing now after the 1440 resolution. But I bet the cards are going to be much more readable for everybody. So I think I'm willing to work with that. Also, yeah, UI is the proper size. I'm going to guess this is probably more readable for everyone, right? If there's no difference, let me know, because I would actually like to restore the resolution for myself. But anyways, sorry to break that up, but I do know some people like seeing people like seeing the items here. Okay, anyways, what were we up to? So I was trying to build up my lore collection. Obviously, it'd be nice for me to get the Edge, but of course that's going to be involving doing some new... doing some translation, and I've got a big stack of works to go through. But before I do any lore, I'd like to try and preserve the glimmering that I get. So let's study and turn this into a lesson learnt. The Tigers of Wrath are wiser than the horses of instruction. If I spend time studying what I've learnt, I could work towards increasing my passion. Also, because we know that there might be new study mechanics, I do want to take a minute and just make sure that we don't have anything in here. The text in the cards is not really possible to make out, no, for most of them anyway. Okay, tell you what, I'm sorry to do this live on stream. This is completely my fault for not doing it earlier. I just want to try and see... this is just going to open and close the game. I'll do it a maximum of 3 times. And this is just so I can know for next time if there is a better way. So what I'm going to do here... Okay. So I'm just trying to do here is get an idea in terms of the relative scale to everything. I'm just drawing a few lines. The big challenge that I have is that if it doesn't really matter what resolution I'm playing the game at, I would prefer to play it at the highest. And if it does affect what people see, I'm going to do, let's start by 1080. Okay, that was what was funny to me, Zero Player Game, because the possibility that I allowed for, all of this is completely the same scale. Somebody in chat previously had said because I had upgraded since I started using the higher resolution, they could not see the cards. And that does potentially make sense because the way that I've set this up on OBS is to compress the stream, compress the full screen that I have to fit the window, which is at 720. And so I allow for the possibility that in that sort of compression, what's apparent to me as a player playing the game on the full screen is not necessarily going to be apparent. But as you said, like looking at the resolution, it absolutely did not change the positioning of anything. So yeah, and unfortunately, the streaming resolution is fixed. The problem with going to a higher resolution is that, especially when I start doing moves like this, I would need to increase the bit rate in order to make it apparent what's going on. And normally I'd be fine with that, except that I can't always rely on Twitch to give me transcodes. Let me just take a quick look at what I've got right now, actually. Oh, I do have transcodes here. But yeah, so once that gets stable, I can start considering on bumping up the bit rate to let people see at a higher resolution. But the challenge right now is that if I go at a higher resolution and I don't have transcodes, it cuts people out of being able to watch the stream. So anyways, thank you for enduring with that. I apologize for doing that on stream, but it does mean that I don't need to change things around. Well, okay, ideally I will change things around so that the game is more readable for people, but clearly I'm not going to be able to do it just by just by mucking around with the resolution. I thought it was weird, but I do listen when people mention stuff in chat. All right, come with me. Saliba, an acquaintance. Saliba is a man of prodigious appetites. He is long past the point where their satisfaction has given him much pleasure, but he has learnt so very much. Okay, so I still want to get rid of the evidence that emerges, so I am going to have a chat with my experienced swindler. How delightful to be working with you. Hey, German LMW. I am just starting both the stream and the game. Obviously, we've got a little bit. I mean, Papa's dead, and we've got no small library. But yes, I'm just starting with both. How are you doing, German LMW? Sorry, I needed to pause for some refreshment. So let's pay to extend the service. It'd be nice if he doesn't eat up all of my notoriety, or my mystique rather. But I'll live. Neither of these were particularly exciting, so Vitality, Exercise, or something rarer has invigorated me. Use with another Vitality to improve your abilities. Last only 3 minutes if unused. Ah, well I can actually double these up, so that's good news. The Well in the Wood is sacred to the Grail, the hour that hungers, and to the Velvet, the hour that guards secrets. Tonight as I approach, it heaved with the velvet's moss, struggling waves of deep and vibrant green, pulsing again and again from its throat. It surged around my calves, rose to my thighs, and this morning I still feel the velvet's breath strong within me. So here's the wood. And again, right now I don't have a lot to do with... Actually, that's not true because I was sick. And 37 seconds... you know what? I think I can still afford to go dreaming. So, of course, it raises the question as to whether or not I want to use this vitality to save myself the money for dreaming, or if I would maybe prefer to... I'd prefer to double it up into a lesson learned and see if I can maybe make my physique even stronger. All right. And Zero Player Games comment makes me wonder if it's German LMW who is the best boy, or if Saliba is the best boy. All right, I could spend money on better paints, or perhaps I could find more exotic pigments. So paying off the swindler seems to have been the right call. The weary detective still going through our trash. All right, my latest paintings have been received well, or reviewed well. Okay. Plenty of glimmering. So I think the answer there... this is tricky. I wanted to fire on the collection of poetry as quickly as I could, but I think at this point here I'm still going to try and preserve the glimmering. I'm going to, of course, double up the ones that are expiring first. But what'll probably happen here is the lesson learned... Oh, hang on. No, this one's already doubling up, so... I think we're still going to be able to make it. I think I will read the collection of poetry after I preserve this one, so... An unpromising address, but a promising resident. Eldridge, an acquaintance. An elegant man of inelegant habits. And apparently I didn't feel like painting? That doesn't sound like me. So let's, in this case I actually want to preserve the... the oldest notoriety. I'm kind of hoping that the weary detective takes this one, because if I want this notoriety to go away, obviously preserving the one that's expiring sooner, I already know that he's not going to rest until he finds something. So in this case, it gives me a chance to get rid of the bigger liability. Wholesome chat or just cultist preferences? There are more windows in my soul, but sunlight is not the only thing that passes through a window. Use with a lesson learnt and your imagination skill. I am ready to improve. Okay, so let's just think a little bit about how long these things are going to take. So I'll double up this glimmering first. I think the challenge is that this is going to decay to a standard glimmering in the time that it takes me to finish reading the collection of poetry. We'll see, though. The Forge of Days waits in my dreams. If I learn the Forge's lore and I dream of this temptation, I can advance my purpose. The need gnaws at me. Ah, yes, I probably should have dreamed with my Ardent Orison. Alright, same terms as before. Alright, so exploration, I don't have any more rumors to follow. So I think I'm just gonna... obviously there's a bunch of stuff I can get at Moorlands, but in this case I think I'm gonna go to Oriflamme's and see what I can finish up there. I'm still at the point where I want occult scraps, so we're gonna take this one up. I walked in the wood last night, and the scissors worked in the distance, and the furred things crammed in my mouth and swarmed my ears, and I felt the old urge to drop to wolf fours and nose among the roots. But I remembered that I walk upright by day, and I know fire and steel and words, and at last I found where the velvet had concealed a secret on the tree bark, on tree bark beneath moss. I read it with the tips of my fingers, and I think now that I could write it in full. I'm really bad at skipping words in some of this dialogue, but that's my cross to bear. All right, so let's start by healing up. In this case, I will go for the vitality. And then in addition to that, I'm still going to try and recruit some new followers and such. Right now I'll use talk to bring people into the cult. But there was... there's another thing I was meaning to do. I do need to commit myself to the temptation, so let's carry on with... yeah, I don't really have an order that I want to bring people in yet, so let's just... we'll just do it in the order that we acquired them. The Hanger-On, with the Knife Secret. This one is ready. A crowd of pinched faces, glinting eyes. Who will bid? The item at auction is visible on the right. It will be gone forever if the auction is lost. A true and complete accounting of the Asclepiad mysteries of the roots of the house, reproduced by one Riley Gress from supposedly a much older text in Greek. Alright, Colors of the Night. Let's pay up for paints. Before they speak the words, the novice must sharpen a knife so it can separate a drifting thread, and it not be sharp enough, it will be the worse for them. So we've now upgraded them to a pawn. This one is loyal, but lacks initiative. So we don't have a lantern column yet. I might change the order of this. One thing that I think would be kind of neat is to change the order in terms of what they sort of decay into. But I'm not going to be married to that yet. Now, we do already have Rhaenyra. Actually, no, Eldridge, I believe. See if we can recruit. Well, I know we can recruit Eldridge, but... this one's ready. Another bidder. Someone has matched my bid. I must match it with more funds or forego my prize. My latest painting has reviewed well. So contentment's always nice to have, but of course the reason I'm doing this is notoriety. Where were we? Of course, I'm going to have to give up the painting for the purposes of an upgrade, but I don't need to rush it. Obviously, I want to wait until I've read the poetry before I worry about freeing up my imagination. All right, More windows to my soul. Let's read the I think the best way for me to handle this is to read the collection of poetry, because that'll take a minute. That means that this is going to decay to a single glimmering. I can then double these up. That'll give me enough time to finish my painting, and I'll be able to turn them. I'm going to be able to turn them all into my last level of imagination. Before they speak the words, the novice must sharpen the knife so it can separate a drifting thread, and it be not sharp enough, it will be the worse for them. So Eldridge has almost learnt not to pick his teeth with his knife in conversation. He has not yet learnt to leave his knife in his boot. Saliba, how good are you at sharpening things? Alright, let's do our temptation power. So, should I dedicate myself to this to my purpose, or focus my efforts elsewhere? It has occurred to me that I hold the key to power. This card will allow you to win a power victory if you upgrade it far enough. Dreaming about it might advance or change it. So, let's bring in the Ardent Orison. I will dedicate myself to the pursuit of power. The auctioneer makes a note of my name and signals one of the attendants. I have my prize. I hope it's worth it. I hope so too. Crowd of pinched faces, glinting eyes. Who will bid? The item at auction is visible on the right. It will be gone forever if the auction is lost. I'm tempted not to buy the collection of poetry here. And that's just because with 4 lessons learned, I should not have any need for the collection of poetry anymore. Looks like I'm rehiring the Swindler, which is a little bit of a shame. It is kind of wasteful for me to do that. Uh-oh. But, you know, that's life. I'm not gonna drop a good opportunity, because then I'm just gonna have to wander through the Explorer when instead I could be buying new items. So, Saliba understands blood. He does not yet understand birth. So there he goes. Nothing really to do with the talk verb now, other than, of course, get people to do nasty deeds. I can, of course, experiment with it too. But for now, we'll carry on. I am going to risk. I'm going to risk it as far as upgrading the. My imagination is concerned. Holy smokes! I'm not apparently not on the ball with my mouse today. Yeah, more glimmerings, always nice. But yeah, so the challenge here is that if I'm mistaken and there is an additional level of improvement for my imagination, then ultimately what I've done is I've wasted an opportunity to be able to upgrade it. But I don't think that is true. So in this case, I'm just going to keep throwing notoriety at my money problems, or lack of money problems. And you know, if I miss out, I miss out. Let's do a painting about contentment. The auction is over. The lot has gone on elsewhere. I retain my funds. We perch on alarming Rietveld chairs in a windowless auction room with vividly burnt orange walls, waiting for the auctioneer to announce what he's offering. The reek of new paint makes the brain spin. A crowd of pinched faces, glinting eyes. Who will bid? And in this case, it's a collection of essays, so I haven't upgraded my reason that far. So I'll rest with it for now. As yet, I have only the needs and desires of any other mortal, but what stirs me? So, more restlessness. This one's a little bit more tricky for me to deal with, actually. Reason for that is the... if you look at it, I'm gonna... Actually, you know what? I could probably get one more round of painting in, but if I get any more restlessness, I'm actually going to need to pull the imagination away in order to improve my ability. So, I've whispered the words that the smith speaks to the iron, that the murderer speaks to their victims, that the fire speaks to its fuel. Only I know what I have done, but it has shaped my path now. I have advanced a step towards a terrible ascension. Okay. So, dedication power. I've dedicated myself to the acquisition of immortal power at any cost. upgrade this card further to make a power victory possible. I must be a true initiate of the Mansis. I'll need to work with the Forge aspect to invoke the Forge of Days and begin the change. Okay. Nope. And my dream slot's open, so as is our way, we won't let that go to waste. I won the auction. The auctioneer makes a note of my name and signals one of the attendants. I have my prize. I hope it's worth it. Again, no reason to go with my explore except for acquiring inputs to my something deep mystery something, a dreadful souffle of half-digested rumor about secret worlds and the irrelevance of contemporary morality, including a catalog of unlikely and probably invented debaucheries. If I've bought this from a shop, it probably means there's nothing else of interest. Alright. That's kind of what I was going for, so it is actually good news that we found that. I'm going to start moving my Mystique over to the right just so I can make room for my Lantern followers when they show up. And I'm also going to... Yes, this is neurotic, but like I said, I want to organize these things in such a way that I always take the four lowest values of notoriety, and that's just because right now having lots of notoriety is good for me. It allows me to get very expensive paintings. But let's say I was working at Glover & Glover, I was on the board, and I wanted to keep making the money from that. Obviously, having notoriety is a huge liability. So one of the ways that I handle it, notoriety is not especially difficult to get, so I err on the side of saying that I want notoriety to go away unless I'm using it. That's my stance on it. I don't really feel like this is the sort of game where you need to be told... Like, if you need to be told a secret, it's a lot more like a Sudoku puzzle or a maze. Like, you need to... What you are essentially asking for is the solution, as opposed to, like, you know, off-world trading company where you are really trying to beat your opponent and you want to know how certain mechanics work. Like, I don't know if there's really... I'm sure somewhere there's a forum that says, like, here's the absolute, mathematically best way to pick your your painting combos or whatever, but this is a game you just kind of go on for the ride, I feel. Alright, same terms as before. This Swindler's doing rather well for themselves. Maybe I should just paint them, and that way I don't need to pay anymore. But yeah, in 13 seconds, we'll be finishing. We'll have our lesson learned. That's well within the 2 minutes that we have available for the... could spend money on better paints, or perhaps I could find more exotic pigments. Auction is over. The lot has gone elsewhere. I retain my funds, so I'm just going to move the numbers over a little bit. Or not numbers, the cards a bit. And now we'll go to Morland's shop. It takes time to sort the gold from the dross, the wheat from the chaff, the blood from the water. If I buy enough books, I'll find something interesting. I also don't think I actually said this. So the dim premises of Miss Morland, who deals with rare and sometimes dangerous books. I actually have a really specific bookstore in Vancouver in mind every time I read this. And I believe if you've ever watched the Amazon series The Man in the High Castle, you've actually seen that bookshop, because I recognized it as soon as they shot it. I know that they were shooting in Vancouver because I walked by the set on like one of the last days I was on campus. But yeah, I have a really specific bookshop in mind whenever I see Morland's. Alright, so we're going to leave the study verb open in anticipation of getting our imagination back. Now, as far as talking is concerned, I think I have been putting this off for a while, so let's start blabbing about the Red Secret and see if we can get people in. I may be the Church of the Bright Edge, but of course we all know that Grail secrets are the ones that get people in cults, so it's a tough call as to whether or not I want to go for another occult scrap at this point. Let's do it, but I should probably start thinking about exploring some of the higher levels. So I did read that item before, so just in the interest of time, I'll pass it over. Alright. That was a profitable bit of work. It's pretty unlikely I'm going to have any use for these others, but like I said, no restlessness to deal with, so I'm happy with that. We've got 4 lessons learned. Now I keep forgetting there is something more. So if I know the right lore, I can employ the invisible arts to reach an even higher summit. I must choose between unreason and folly. Folly? Unreason. Ooh, tough call. Am I a moth? Ooh, yeah, this has really interesting implications. So if I am Edge, you combine Edge and Grail or Edge and Moth. Yeah, I was slightly curious if you could get away with that. I wonder if, yeah. These ones don't really make sense. I definitely see unreason or folly. Cut my hair, cut my bonds, cut my snip, snip, snip. Who desires but acts not breeds pestilence. I definitely feel like I would be a Grail Edge combination as Lord Bullingdon. All right, our anticipated notoriety acquisition has occurred, so we'll wait for the evidence to pop up. That'll give us a use of the talk verb. Obviously, I don't have much to do with the work slot right now. I don't have any commissions that I can do. We've got Gildersleeve's Latin grammar. I don't really need that at the moment, so we'll put that beside Oriflamme's for sale when we don't have anything better to do. Actually, you know what? We can probably do that right now. This oddity is probably worth something, but it's hard to be sure. I might need to pay the swindler again. We'll see. I'm just gonna take a minute for some water while things are ticking away. Okay, new followers coming on board. The auctioneer's gavel bangs and my item is sold. So let's head back to Moorlands. We've got a heavy purse, so we can always add new books. Eventually I'll start reading them. Alright, no need for a buzzing in the brain, so let's take a visit to the Temple of the Wheel. And here we have trembling airs, the toes tap, all is brisk and well. The wood beyond the walls of the mansis, a jagged rock, rears like the petrified remnants of a dancing giant. I trailed my hand along its flank, over the eye signs and lichen and the crude graffiti of the lesser wood powers, to feel the thrumming of the wheel which is past. It has passed, but something continues. I don't think I have any heart here. Well, we'll put it over on the side. Oh, really, Pax? I'm sorry to hear that. Anything particular troubling you at work, or is it just you're just very active and committed? I think I've gotten myself into a bit of a pickle. Nope, I can save myself here. By trying to get another body, and I forgot that I actually increased the time it would take for the experienced swindler to become available, but I have a way around this. So, and now my soul lies ready. So we've got our passion back. I have an open soul. Behold, they stand at my door and knock. If I hear any voice, I will open the door. And they will come in to me and sup with them, and they with me. So, let's, again, throw notoriety at our problems. And in this case, we will do a portrait of our swindler to keep them in our employ. Also, I should start reading books again, so let's read On the White. On closer investigation, the work seems to be a theory of aesthetics, or perhaps a set of warnings about the dangers of painting. This is Solomon Husher writes, perhaps allegorically, of winter and its long, slow, doomed romance with the sun. The epigraph is Sunset at Noon. Kitling Ripe and the Moldywarp's Grave and Other Stories, a lusciously illustrated tome of loosely connected children's stories collected by one N.K. Field. Few of them are remotely suitable for children. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else I want to do with Explore right now, but really buying up as many books is the name of the game at the moment, so more Colors of the Night so we can do an especially good portrait of our hireling. Our hireling. I am certain that my adversary has lodged a copy of their notes elsewhere, with their solicitor, with their superior, or even with a contact in the press. This is troubling. So there's the evidence. We'll get rid of that almost instantaneously. Freighter 5, good to see you. And Pax says, big job you're doing construction services for, but you had no hand in designing. Lots of problems constantly. In addition to that, let's just say you work at a pretty notorious engineering firm. This is a very Canadian reference. My condolences. Yeah, I actually, despite the, I mean, I work with data, so I don't actually have to put objects in my hands with that, but I completely appreciate the feeling of working, when you say you've been working on something that you didn't design. One of the sources of frustration at work for me has been, it's very easy to like just sit down and like have an idea, and if somebody else is doing it, you don't really deal with the consequences. And I try to be as good as I can about that. It's like, if somebody is in a position to tell me, hey, I'd like you to do this thing, it does not serve anyone for me to say, I'm not doing that thing. But I'm not crazy about the fact that when I say, perhaps we might not want to do that thing, the consequence will be this. Not being heard in that sense is really tough to work with sometimes. And sure enough, even though I'm on a training course right now, I've been going back at lunch to just deal with a bunch of things that have been coming up as a result of these, changing things midstream kind of decisions. So I'm sorry to actually turn your stresses into me. That was not my intention. But what I mean to say is I have empathy for your situation. I do hope it improves soon. And may I recommend that you not read the paper for the next little while. Come with me. Pope Clifton, an acquaintance. A bellowing and unorthodox Catholic with a mystic streak and an untrimmed beard. All right, I'm just trying to think if there's... I think I was originally going to upgrade Pope Clifton right away, but I actually want the Swindler available to ditch the evidence, so... Another collection of essays. Yay me. All right, so just as a precautionary measure, I'm actually going to take my pawn and send them out to search the city. And this is in case the effort to take out the evidence fails. I do still want followers, so we'll take the peculiar rumor. While I was returning to the depths, one appeared in front of my eyes, whose mouth was sealed. When I saw them in the great emptiness, I cried out. I think that last night I met another soul in the wood. I will never recall exactly what we said one to another, but I think that we would recognize each other in the waking world. Yeah, it's a hard one. Like I'm a little bit lucky in the sense that I have been on both sides of that equation. So in film, I would definitely have to, call a shot. Like whether or not it is the platonic idea of whatever we were going for. The fact of the matter is something needs to get done, and yes, you can get committees together and talk about everything. There's always going to be another way that you can do an improvement of something, but sometimes you just need to get something done. So I completely appreciate that half of the equation. But I'm also finding it really hard to think of a time when I had somebody who was reporting to me and there was not a fairly clear system in place for them to say, hey, you know, this is going to be a problem, we should deal with that, or, you know, have you thought about doing it this way, or anything along those lines. And I can definitely say for a very long time I was working with someone who I felt was not very comfortable. I could tell that they were not very comfortable as a manager, and it was because of the level of micromanaging and just... I mean, you can really tell with some people whether or not they're sort of in command of their subject. And I genuinely made an effort to try and be as helpful as I could to try and like, you know, the old trick of like making it seem like it was somebody else's idea to try and get more buy-in. I would do that a lot more than I thought was decent. And sometimes they would bite, and other times it's just clearly like, this is the first idea that came into their head, so obviously it's the right one, and so it's like, well, now I know what I'm doing, and unfortunately means that it's going to take twice as long as I wanted. So, it is what it is. I'm not under that circumstance anymore, which means that the Surviving Mars streams will be a little bit more cheery. But like I said, Pax, I feel for you. From some of your chat responses, it sounds like you're in a very similar situation, and that's why I play video games like this, so that I can go to Glover and Glover and relive that experience. What are you doing to me, Kennedy? No. Yeah, that's why I play games like this, because it's nice to have those frustrations abstracted away and potentially have the option of exterminating your boss with a demon or something. Significant conversations in a smoky meeting room. What do I need from my follower? My scheme will most likely succeed. There's always a chance that something will go awry. All right, let's go back to the wood, because we definitely don't have the forge in place to do anything else. Husher writes distractedly of his hatred of colors and his yearning for death. He hints at a great work he has envisaged or begun, where the palest of paintings will enthrall the world. He returns again and again to certain compelling phrases, which he claims are the secret words of winter. We've gained the Sexton's secret. Certain knowledge, it is said, can be expressed only through the particular quality of a silence. It has been suggested that one can read such knowledge with one's eyes closed, but only by mischievous commentators. So in this particular case here, we've got requires knowledge. This is a puzzle with missing pieces. I might find those pieces in odd corners of scholarship. I kind of wanted to save this for a moment, but let's just see what happens here. So we say 2 lore fragments of the same level. Okay, so it looks like it's still the same thing. I guess this most sensible would be... Yeah, okay. So we've got 2 red secret here. It looks like it's the same system, and there's just new aspects to certain cards. So Factorio was very nice for that. All the design challenges and optimization without any of the budget deadlines or forced time commitment. You know, I've only ever touched a little bit of the tutorials of Factorio, but a lot of people I know really like it. So this is Edge and Forge, a bomb maker. Do I really want to take out the weary detective so soon? I don't think that's the right answer to evidence. So we will we won't hire that individual. I think I'm just going to start reading these books in order right now. It's nice to kind of get a little bit of everything, but at this point I think I'm just going to read through my stack. The 6 letters on necessity. Warnings and confessions about the cost of the invisible arts, addressed to a student by the 17th century magus and reported immortal Julian Cosley. Cosley's tone is urgent, as if he suspected he might have little time left. We don't have enough time. Secret history, moth. Might be able to paint. Yeah, I've actually been neglecting my painting, so this will not really help me in the long run, but... Oh, drat, I was wondering if I could paint my rumor, but why not? Well, it is an ingredient. I don't see anything coming out of this, but let's see. I know I'm going to wind up losing the peculiar rumor anyway. And I'll be painting with the restlessness later. Oh, I should have read that text. Sorry. Okay, can't even throw it in there. What a shame. So we'll get a little extra notoriety for painting with lore, I believe. But it doesn't hurt to experiment. Sometimes it's worth it just to confirm we're... Oh, well, there we go. Another peculiar rumor. I came to the Temple of the Wheel, that high and jagged rock, that memorial to dead gods. Those who take their own lives sometimes first cast themselves from its peak in a dream. I found another sleeping soul, scratching the sign of the eye into the lichen at its peak. I do not recall what passed between us, but I will recognize their face in the waking world. I think I'm just going to keep heading out to the wood until I have something better to do with the dream slot. Better not. I must be more careful of the company I keep. We can wait for a minute. My minion has returned, stumbling, mumbling, clumsily bandaged. They were caught in the coils of their own plan. Heal a fallen follower with talk. I don't remember that ever happening to a hireling before, actually. Perhaps now they'll survive, but there are limits to what the human body can sustain. Even the sun can be divided, though it require the Forge of Days for division. So we've gained erudition and the Smith's secret. In 5 continents, Smiths have whispered the same words to the iron. Murderers have been known to whisper these words too, and adepts, of course. These words are spoken in a ritual to inspire an unmerciful change. Now we'll start reading The Locksmith's Dream, the first volume in Teresa Gallmer's examination of the parallels and the mystic dreams of artisans. The parallels and mystic dreams experienced by carpenters, masons, and other artisans, and what they purport to reveal about the architecture of the world. Sometimes mordant, sometimes funny. No one has ever explained why Gallmer devoted herself to this chaotic exploration of artisans' dreams. Alright, let me move these along. And sure enough, we got some fresh notoriety off of that. But, I mean, I learned something new, so can't be too mad about it. For similar reasons, like, obviously it's nice for me to be able to keep the, you know, the double-digit notoriety if I can. We'll paint away the restlessness, and we'll explore the peculiar rumor. Okay. Bleak thoughts, dark days. I must be careful not to let doubts creep in. Dread may provoke full-fledged despair. I hope not, though. So the aim for the next little bit, again, is mostly just to digest my books and eventually get to a point where we can do some more meaningful summonings. But my more immediate worry right now is the evidence, especially with the Season of Suspicion coming up. So in 10 seconds we'll have access to the Swindler again. Nope, recent work is celebrated, my name is known, and my work is done well. Of course, the good news is that there's a lot of mystique that the detective's going to have to sort of wade through, so we might be safe on that front. But again, wouldn't hurt to have a little more security as far as. I should probably pick a subjective. Do I want the other occult scrap? I think we're gonna. Nah, you know what? I'll take one more. I walked the wood last night, and the scissors worked in the distance, and furred things crammed in my mouth and swarmed my ears, and I felt the old urge to drop to wolf fours and nose among the roots. But I remembered that I walk upright by day, and I know fire and steel and words, and at last I found where the velvet had concealed a secret on tree bark beneath moss. I read it then with the tips of my fingers, and I think now that I could write it in full. I'm still trying to see if I want to do the, you know what, Lord Bullingdon's a more careless type. I don't think I'm going to make my big stack of lore like I did last time. I think I'm just going to try and advance it to its top level and move with that. That said, I'm not going to be doing that for a while just because I have more books to read, but I do find it kind of fun to have personalities for characters in terms of how I work with certain cards. Excuse me. The wound is healed as much as it ever will be. A gate of pain and possibility remains. So they've gained knock, which is not particularly helpful, but what do you know? We've made them a better swindler, I suppose. Oh, you know what? It's possible that the weary detective will actually snatch this out from under us. I think it's fairly remote. I think they do need to at least pick up the one item, but it's something to keep an eye on. Time and again we hear of the wood which rises from the world's foundation. All trees reach for light. What does the wood reach for? Is there a difference between light and light? I think the key to dreams of the wood might be one of these, the one that isn't exactly real. We've gained the Watchman's secret. It has been expressed like this. Each hour has its color, but color exists only where there is light. And more erudition. So if I want, I can double these up into a lesson learned. What I think I'm going to do is I'm going to read another book because I've got a little over 2 minutes. Sorry, a little under 2 minutes to sort of build up another one. So it's not exactly lazy. There's a small risk because there might be a more desirable use for the study verb at that time, but I'm gonna run with it. The second volume of Teresa Gallmer's examination of the parallels and mystic dreams of artisans. The frontispiece has been slashed with a razor. In this volume, Gallmer records fewer dreams and explicates more on her own elaborate theories. We see this again and again. What below can't escape what is above. All right. An unpromising address, but a promising resident. Oops. So another hanger-on, not exactly my favorite character to find, but useful nonetheless. Let's go back to Moorlands. I don't think there's much use for exploration at the moment. Okay, more money for Colors of the Night. There's nothing to be ashamed of here. All right, Wrapped in the King. Detailed accounts by James Colin Murphy of secret bacchanals and ecstatic dances observed in the necropolises and graveyards in southern Europe, in Egypt and in Anatolia. The author is a self-confessed ghoul, an eater of buried flesh. He claims to have witnessed the dances while at his feasting. Let's pick up more books at Moorlands. It's partly just because painting has been so lucrative for us. This one, I mean, I say it's kind of a higher priority for me to get the notoriety in here, but it really isn't because these are going to be hanging around no matter what. But as it is, painting is worth money, so I'm going to keep doing it. Alright, gotta go for the rumor. While I was returning to the depths, one appeared in front of my eyes whose mouth was sealed. When I saw them in the great emptiness, I cried out. I think that last night I met another soul in the wood. I will never recall exactly what we said one to another, but I think that we'll recognize each other in the waking world. Finest artisans all dream of the white door in the end. I am no artisan, only a scholar. I think there's a secret that all these artisans know, but I think that secret is only half the story. So we've got the locksmith's secret. Sooner or later, every locksmith has the dream. Now we recite its 7 phases. So nothing we can really summon with, but it's a good start. And of course, I will now upgrade at least one of my erudition. If I can, ideally, I will turn this into another erudition. Not 100% clear where I'll get that from. I'm just trying to think. The more lantern aspect that I use, the more likely. I suppose in that case, doing portraits of my pawn might be an idea. Minion is returned. The evidence has been destroyed. I'm a little safer. So in this particular case, because I know new evidence is going to be coming up, I'm going to hire this follower again. So another collection of essays. This means that I'm not going to be too sad if I wind up buying, or if I wind up using this collection and doing my upgrade that way. But in reality, the first level of the scholarship upgrade should be the easiest one for me to do. It would be nice if I don't wind up burning a collection of essays on that, just because it's the lowest possible hurdle that I could overcome. Some days are better than others. Sometimes the sky is nothing like a filthy sheet. Sometimes the river runs clear. My name is known, and my work has done well. As always, more painting, but what I am going to try here, in order to open the floodgates of intuition, I am actually going to try and paint the pawn. Oh! How did I'm not quite sure how I identified that as yellow and not green. Yeah. Alright, well that complicates things a little bit. I don't have a... I should have used Clifton in that case. Oh well, let's go unless contentment... Ah, contentment does actually have lantern, so that might give me gates of intuition. So what I'm doing there is, if it's not obvious, there are certain events that pop up. You know, sometimes you get old, unhappy, far off things and whatnot. And there are actually ways that you can... Those don't just happen... Okay, they sort of happen randomly, but it's not pure. Like, it's not completely out of left field. It will always... If you've noticed, those things always happen when a timer finishes. And so certain actions that you take in the game have a chance of sort of having these secondary effects. And one of the things that's kind of fun to do in the game, if you are like me and sort of like playing around and playing the odds on some of these things, is... In fact, I tend to do this a lot even in things like strategy games and whatnot. Being able to... have your game plan, but when you have sort of an opportunity, when you're indifferent between your choices, picking one particular path for sort of even like a 1 in a million shot. Obviously, if you make that decision a million times, it's a lot more likely than just, I'm making this choice once and I'm never doing it again. And one of the things that I've found sort of effective at games is being able to say, it's like, okay, well, I don't know how many times I'm going to wind up making this choice, but if I know the chance that emerges out of it, obviously you play the odds if you do that. So in this particular case here, I'm saying, well, what would I like most of all? I would like erudition. What are the guaranteed ways to get erudition? Well, I can I can study reason to do that. It's like, well, is there a better use for my study verb? It's like, yeah, literally any other book on the table. So in that situation, I say, it's like, okay, well, I'm not going to use the study verb for it, but what's another thing that I can do? And in this particular case, it's me saying, well, it's a small chance, but anything that I can do to try and provoke the gates of intuition opening works for me. And I think, I'm not 100% sure, but I think what I'm doing potentially does that. So back to the well. Hey, another peculiar rumor. This might lead me somewhere I need, or it might mean something else entirely. So many things rise up from the well in the wood. Last night it was a swarm with wormy roots. The trees clustered and whispered. Perhaps they were welcoming the influx. I found a sleeping soul ensnared in the roots. I helped them struggle free. When they wake, they will recall my face, as I do theirs. Almost forgot to buy the paints. My mind, the library. Use this with a lesson learnt and your scholarship skill. So in this case here, I need a second one. Don't have the erudition for it yet. But I will read The Humans of a Gentleman. Samuel Savage's satirical comedy on the intrigues of the ailing but cunning John's son, his mistress Mavelyn, her lover Leo, and the upstart Corvino. By the end of the first act, Mavelyn has revealed a secret door in the walls of the house to Leo, and Corvino has taken to consuming worms. An unpromising address, but a promising resident. Rose. Rose is a Slimus, and she recognizes you as someone uncommon. Okay, more notoriety, and we'll do the exact same trick. Alright, same terms as before. And I think... This is always risky just because I usually wind up having... So this can wind up taking 2 minutes, but I don't like having the talk verb idle. Like I said, I'm still trying to get bodies into the cult, so I'm opening myself up to the possibility that I can't get rid of the evidence right away. But of course, we know it's not going to be damning evidence, and so as a result, it's not quite the same emergency that it normally would be. Probably should have read the text for the painting, but I got impatient. Again, I just want to make sure I'm using the smallest expiration times. And here I'll use my fresher contentment. No reason, just cleaning up the board, really. So why am I not using the experienced swindler in order to, extend their life without having to pay money? Well, because I want to try and increase those. I want to try and increase that chance of getting erudition without using the study. Looks like it won't pay off. In fact, I might. Let's go to the well. Hey, another peculiar rumor. Getting lucky with that. So many things rise from the well in the wood. Last night it was a swarm with wormy roots. The trees clustered and whispered. Perhaps they were welcoming the influx. I found a sleeping soul ensnared in the roots, and I helped them struggle free. When they wake, they will recall my face, as I do theirs. Oops, let's get the rest of the cards. So we're just shy with the erudition of the upgrade that I needed. So if the Humors of a Gentleman doesn't give me what I need, which it didn't, the play is scabrous and occasionally hilarious. The characters are contrary and capricious. Many of the more resonant lines might well be formulae of power disguised in plain sight. So, in this case here, I am going to study with reason to get the erudition. Now, this one's going to expire before that study is finished, but I have a plan for that. Sylvia lost her eye in the woods when she was 9 years old. Every year at Candlemas, she returns to the place she buried it. Again, we're generating a lot of notoriety as a result of this, but it's worth it because I'm getting people. Okay. So not too worried about the glimmering because I don't have anything that I can do with it right now. But I believe when I paint... I can paint the erudition. Erudition itself has lantern, by the way, so I probably should have done that already. But in this particular case... Oh! Let me... This is going to be a little cheesy, but I'm going to get the Swindler to hold still. This is just going to be so that I can get a little bit of a lead up on the clock here. Okay, now I'm going to switch him out. That buys me 11 seconds on the talk verb. I always feel a little dirty when I do that, but I haven't patched it out yet. More peculiar rumors. While I was returning to the depths, one appeared in front of my eyes, whose mouth was sealed. When I saw them in the great emptiness, I cried out. I think that last night I met another soul in the wood. I will never recall exactly what we said one to another, but I think that we will recognize each other in the waking world. Alright. Same routine. It's possible I can try... Actually, I don't really have enough lore to be able to do this. I'm not as far as I thought I was. I don't need to exactly keep cycling through this, but there is the possibility of me getting level 2 secret histories, so... My latest paintings have reviewed well. So, as you can see, I was talking about increasing the probability of a certain event happening. Now, that event didn't happen. It's not exactly a loss because I was still at a point where I'm like, well, it may not, you know, I'm not going to be too mad if it doesn't happen. So in this particular case here, I know that I'm going to need to use the erudition. I'll be gaining that in the 6 seconds when the study is done. So in this case here, I will use... I think I'm going to paint the Swindler. I don't feel comfortable with that, actually. I think I'm just going to paint the Contentment. So normally I would just to try and extend the life of the Swindler, but I know I've got 8 seconds before this thing finishes, so... And of course Contentment still has the lantern, so... It's not the most compelling reason, but it is a reason. Right, the words contain knowledge, now I contain it. It is a little like theft, a little bit like feasting, and a little like the progress of infectious disease. So there's my erudition. Let's stick these together. I've picked up odd facts here and there. If I spend studying what I have learned, I could increase my reason. An unpromising address, but a promising resident. Hey. Laidlaw. Laidlaw is a tinkerer and mechanic with an uncanny knack. So the whole reason I did this, of course, was I now want to extend the business with the follower. Of course, if it, for whatever reason, I wind up with something in less than a minute, I can always switch out the money for the evidence, but I don't think that'll happen. Obviously, we're doing well for funds as well. Coming up next, Season of Sickness. So no vitality to speak of, but we'll have enough money for medicine. Well, that's not true. I mean, we might wind up with vitality from the Mansis. And same as before, just paint as much money while I have the public's attention. Okay, I'll keep using the rumors until I don't have any use for them. We just read this 2 times in a row, so I'm going to hold off on that one for now. I think it's a little... I'm going to do one more trip to the wood. I wanted to be a little cautious for the sickness, but 2 seconds and then 50 here. The world as it is, mirrors are calm, the sun is steady, the glory recedes. I am sane, if that means anything. No fascination drives your visions. It's over for now. Alright. Tristan. Tristan dislikes distraction. Tristan gets things done. My mind, the library. Okay, so less of a reason to do the scholarship, but in this case here, I have now made myself wiser. Knowledge is a city wall built stone by stone, but what waits in the darkness beyond the walls? Why would we need a fortress except that we had something to fear? And we'll track down the rumor while we're at it. Yep. Alright, same terms as before, so 170 seconds, so 107 seconds. I may wind up having to pay for them again, but actually let me think about this. So if I talk about the secrets again, this is going to mean that I lose them for sure. Like, they've got 107 seconds, so if I try and recruit someone, I'm just going to wind up in the same problem again. So, in this particular case, I think I'm going to talk with Poppy. I don't really need the money, but... My dear, I've been wanting to talk to you. Sometimes I fund scholars of the invisible arts. I'd like to offer you my support and a substantial contribution. And all you need to do someday is to introduce me to someone else who will end matters properly. She smiles benignly. Add passion to accept or reason to interrogate Poppy further. Accept Poppy's offer. Yes, that's exactly right. I'll come back tonight. Lord Bullingdon does not take the deal out of necessity. Also, Cat Caro went running away. So Cat Caro, as she styles herself, earns a living as a stage medium and fortune teller. She may have deeper talents. Okay, recent work is celebrated. More mystique. I might actually have to... Well, you know what? I'll just let this all creep up. Alright, so sickness, course of the heart, so I can actually just wait a little bit and get the vitality out of that. I'm a little curious what triggered that, though. Oh, because it's heart and lantern. I was just focusing on the lantern. But as before, I think it makes a lot of sense to just keep painting while I'm famous. Lord Bullingdon does not believe in enough. Incidentally, a couple people did reach out saying that they were new to the game. If you happen to be one of those people, even if you don't normally like participating in Twitch chats, that's completely fine, because obviously it's my job to be as entertaining as I can. But if you have had any lingering questions, or you'd like to know even how I got to this part, because I know while it may be obvious to me, it's not necessarily obvious to somebody who's new and starting. I do actually really like helping people out with the game. I try and answer. It's a little hard to do on a stream, because obviously a stream you get to see me do everything. But if you want an answer that will still preserve the experience of letting you figure something out, I will do my best to offer what is, a non-spoilerish kind of answer. There's always this risk, because of course I'm playing the game and I do explain why I'm performing certain actions, and I have the benefit of having played this game quite a bit. So watching this is always going to mean there's a chance that you miss out on a particular bit of information, or that you see a bit of information that you didn't want. But as long as you're willing to sort of take on that risk, do feel free to speak up. And obviously I'm not going to be, if you just ask the question and never say anything again, that's totally fine. Everybody has their own ways of interacting with streams. But if you've been sitting on it and wanting to know something, I am happy to help, because I I'm always happy when new people are getting more out of this game. It's a really special one. It's a shame we didn't get the peculiar rumor, but we had a good run. Vitality, exercise, or something rarer has invigorated me. Use with another vitality to improve your abilities. The well in the wood is sacred to the Grail, the hour that hungers, and to the velvet, the hour that guards secrets. Tonight as I approached, it heaved with the velvet's moss, struggling waves of deep and vibrant green, pulsing again and again from its throat. It surged around my calves, rose to my thighs, and this morning I still feel the velvet's breath strong within me. Oops, there's passion, vitality, and I will leave Dream open because of course now I have vitality, so I can get rid of the affliction right away. Bleak thoughts. Victor. I have reordered the boundaries of my ignorance. Notable scholarship. I have learnt enough to know how little I know. Use this with 3 lessons learnt to gain more reason. So you probably won't be upgrading that for a while, but if the opportunity comes up, obviously I will. So if I wanted it right away, I would read the 3 collections of essays, but of course that will make it all the more difficult for me to... It'll make it all the more difficult for me to actually be able to achieve that final level of scholarship. So in this case, I'm going to wait for an opportunity to get more erudition. Study-wise, let's read Apollo and Marsyas. Hello, Ruthless Pigeons. For the record, you are lurking, and hey, well, hello to you, Ruthless Pigeons. Always happy to see you, and always happy to have lurkers. I never take attendance, but it's always very cool to know that people are still hanging around and enjoying the stream, so thank you for that. In the original myth, the libretto of a lost opera concerning the contest between Apollo and Marsyas and its tragic outcome. The librettist is identified only by their initials RKNJL. In the original myth, Marsyas lost a musical contest and was flayed by Apollo, who later regretted it. In this version, Marsyas' skin has a further history. Alright, Poppy's request. In the season of rags, Poppy will return. Tiny packet of tiny treasures, a gift from Poppy. She'll see me again in the season of rags for me to make the introduction that I promised. So, Silver Spintrea, I should put, let's say this is the new tool shed. And 10 funds, because, again, Bullingdon does not believe in enough. Alright, again, because I'm going to want to hire the Swindler, I think I'm going to do a recruitment drive rather than try and get more people in this way. Or, sorry, when I say I use recruitment drive in 2 senses, and I shouldn't. Usually when I say recruitment drive, I mean an effort to try and get more acquaintances, where in reality, this is proper recruitment. So this is the real recruitment drive. All right. Bellowing an Orthodox Catholic with mystic streak and an untrimmed beard. So the nice thing about this one is it takes 30 seconds, so then I can drag the Swindler into the appropriate spot. Right, reviewed well because people can't get enough of these mood pieces, it seems. And trying to think about what I want to paint. I guess it doesn't really matter. Can I paint about money? Yeah, that'd be kind of fun if I could. We'll do contentment again, why not? Again, part of the reason behind this is that I will be rehiring the Swindler, so... Alright, collection of poetry, don't exactly need it, I think I'll just sell it right away. The poet makes himself a seer by an immense, long, deliberate derangement of all the senses, the opposite of wisdom, thankfully. Before they speak the words, the novice must sharpen that knife so it can separate a drifting thread, and it be not sharp enough, it will be the worse for them. Now Clifton improvises new prayers rich with solar metaphors. He still shouts like a soldier and drinks like a sailor. There's a lot of characters I like, but I always keep coming back to good old Pope Clifton. He's a very memorable character. Oh, crap! Guess I'm painting the Swindler. So in the back of my head, I always know I'm doing something wrong, but the sick room grows close and stale. Time to get up. What am I doing now? Sorry, I just want to tidy up the board where I can. Yes, there's nothing for me to do dream-wise yet. I don't believe... yeah. Didn't think it was Forge. I believe Lantern it's 2 not enough, and I don't think Moth will push me up. The white might. Yeah. Didn't think Knock would. Cool. I'm learning things. Alright. The skin of Marsyas gives oracles and is later smuggled to Phrygia, where the priestess of Sybil use it for a drumhead. At the opera's climax, the pounding of the drum drives would-be violators of the priestesses to suicidal madness. The opera ends with a wistful hymn from the youngest priestess on the beauty of mountain pines. A thunder secret. There are common sentiments in every thunderclap. Let us acknowledge them. Okay, 5 creations. The itinerant scholar Shohai debated 5 possible origins for humanity, with a hooded figure since claimed to be the beach crow. Shohai later claimed that all of these accounts had proven false, but the debate was nevertheless recorded. The Carapace origin. We were born from shell, like children of the wasp from the spider. The Glorious origin. Our life motes descended from light. The origin befouled. We were found naked and smeared with muck in the roots of the wood. Looks like we got some secret histories coming up before too long. Also, I didn't read the auction text. This oddity is probably worth something, but it's hard to be sure. No one is impressed. The auctioneer's gavel bangs. My item is sold, but for some so trifling as to be not worth recording. Before they speak the words, the novice must sharpen a knife so it can separate a drifting thread, and it be not sharp enough, it will be the worse for them. So this is... oh, wait a minute, what am I doing? This is a lantern pawn, I just haven't upgraded them high enough, so... I thought I was colorblind when it's like, really? That counts as... but no, it was just foolish. Okay, I'm leaving this open because in 5 seconds I'll get the hireling back. I can pay them properly, and then I can use Restlessness for the painting. I guess I get maximum money's worth if I wait the 9 seconds, but the 9 seconds of peace of mind that I'm not going to lose the guy is more important to me. Of course, it is a little ridiculous that I've been waiting this long to try and take out evidence that hasn't appeared yet. Like, I'm sure we're going to get another season of Suspicion far before... sorry, we're going to get a season of Suspicion right at the time that I get rid of that, that hireling. But that's life. back to Moorlands. With my 85 wealth. Oops, apparently not back to Moorlands. Let's try that again. There we go. So it looks like we're going to get another restlessness out of this, but I'm just going to be using the work for painting for the next while, so I'm not too worried about that. Let's go to the Temple of the Wheel. Trembling Airs. The toes tap, all is brisk and well. This is this funny case where, obviously my study verb is occupied a lot, my work verb is occupied a lot, but they're all sort of occupied with the same activity. So unlike, say, when you're doing expeditions and you're spending so much time exploring these locations, and you're like, well, I want to explore to make some money off of Oriflammes or something like this. This opening period is kind of nice because you're not presented with these dilemmas in terms of like, what do you want to use the slot for? I've tripped up a little bit in terms of things like not being able to, like, it's like, oh, I forgot to hit the hireling. Like, that thing takes 2 minutes to activate, so I shouldn't have done that. But obviously I've been able to work around them. Later on in the game, you do have decisions like, oh, I seem to be getting a little tight on money. Maybe I should be going to this location. Oh, but if I go to this location, then I'm going to lose this summon, and so I need to, and that makes it interesting. I think it's also an appropriate choice that they did it this way, because obviously if you were being presented with these like really tough choices without really knowing the consequences, that's probably a bridge too far in terms of frustration. So the idea here is that like my difficult decision right now is, what book do I read? Now there are potentially some negative side effects to books. So the 5 creations. Shohai's preferred theories are that we are the children of apes who walked upright, although his tone here is satirical, or that we are consumed not with our parents, which is not a crime of the sky, but also our origin, so that we came from nowhere. Also, just bear with me a second here, guys. My mic stand seems to be a little unbalanced. I think this is just a cheap mic stand. But yeah, so obviously me finding out, oh, Dread, now I could have had a Season of Despair, but of course I need 3 Dread to be lost to it. So this is fair game in terms of, yes, this will be annoying if I die to it, but it's not, it's not like that's completely out of left field. Now, alternatively, being faced with sort of the trade-off of, okay, I'm in the Season of Despair, maybe I want to get some contentment from the Ecdysis Club, but I also want to get some money from selling something at Oriflammes, or, so on and so forth, all these different uses of exploration. If you don't really know which is which, and you find that you're dying as a result of some of these decisions, then you're probably going to wind up feeling a little bit more hard done by. This is probably Grail, not Heart. You're probably going to feel a little more hard done by than if you're in the later game and you sort of understand, here's what I need Oriflammes for, here's what I need expeditions for, here's roughly how long it's going to take me to accomplish certain tasks. Obviously, once you've got to that point in the game in your own playthrough, I just think as a whole it's probably a little bit less devilish when you're making those kinds of choices. Devouring. What? And I got this out of Oriflammes. I gotta make a note on this one. This feels like it's a mistake. Imagine if I had gone for the traditional Grail playthrough with my bright young thing. Alright, the Grail was the first god who was blood. The flower maker came from light. The beach crow was flesh. Hunger and greed and yearning are the matrix of appetite. And here is their secret doctrine. It feels like that's not in the right spot, but it is. I never know where to put these. I'm going to say this is a Malice. I didn't even think what my inspiration would be. I think I'll just go for contentment again. Oh, and I should be reading still. The War of the Roads, 1450 to 1580, censored edition. Willis Ford describes the War of the Roads, an event in a history other than our own, in detail. But numerous pages have been removed. The name of the publisher is blacked out, and an ominous slip stapled to the cover explains that Willis Ford has been excised. Hello, Green Whisper 1213. How are you doing? Glad to have you here. In this pass, a score or more longs were made. They brokered a peace with the Forge of Days, long enough to set England on a path of early conquest and eventual destruction. The Forge itself devoured the greatest among them. Alright. I have dreamed of the Forge, and I long for the heat of her flames. It is time to perform the work and begin the changes, but I must have enough Forge aspect. Exploration might find more. So we'll trade out contentment for restlessness, because obviously that's something I want to get rid of. And we've got Gartside's Sanskrit reader, so that'll be helpful. Won't need to read it right away, but, you know. Takes time to sort the gold from the dross, the wheat from the chaff, the blood from the water. If I buy enough books, I'll find something interesting. And here we've got old and happy far off things, which means another restlessness is coming my way, but I can manage that. Oops. Alright, same as before. So that came from me hiring the swindler again. So here, I think I'm just going to do a little bit more recruitment, because I don't want to stray too far from my my ability to rehire this character. Where were we? Here's the Church of the Bright Edge. Rose is a Slimus, and she recognizes you as someone uncommon. I'm reasonably happy the detective is incompetent, but it is costing me quite a bit in terms of my hired professional. Alright, half-glimpse wistfulness has touched me.
Greed, for lack of a better word, is good.
I am here and I am drunk and I am depressed.
Oh, green side. Okay, well, I don't think I should be happy that your depression translates into money for me, but, and you didn't need to pay for me to extend a sympathetic ear, but thank you for that very much. So drunk, not much I can do about that. Enjoy your time with the Grail. What's on your mind, Green Whisper? What can we talk you through? Can you express it in the form of Cultist Simulator aspects? Sorry to hear it though. If you do want to have a chat, I'm not going anywhere for the next little bit. The Viennese Conundra. Nico van Driel describes odd events in Vienna: the disappearance of children, epidemics of parasite activity, animal mutilations, nightmares of worms, the activities of a charitable organization, the New Legions that funds the burial of the poor. She proposes peculiar connections between these activities. Far off unhappy things. So I definitely have some sympathy. I know we were chatting a little bit earlier. I know other people are sharing work stresses, so I've definitely have a little bit more in line with those troubles. But I started DMing a cultist A cultist simulator D&D game. Now that I am very interested in. Again, don't let me sidetrack. If there's something else that you wanted to talk about, obviously let me know. But that sounds like a really good time. So tell me more about this. How have you gone about it? What's your party like? I'd love to hear what you're sharing, because that sounds like a really good thing going on in your life. Before they speak the words, the novice must sharpen a knife so it can separate a drifting thread, and if be not sharp enough, it will be the worse for them. Rose is a sly miss, but loyal. All right, Sylvia lost her eye in the woods, and when she was 9 years old, at Candlemas, she returns to the place she buried it. My name is known and my work has done well. Oops, looks like I've earned some fascination for my troubles, so I might want to use my dream for something else now. Alright, so I'll be getting the dream available in a bit. If I want, I could let the restlessness decay into dread, but I don't have a season of visions coming up soon, so I might as well use the fleeting reminiscence. Wait a minute, I don't have a fleeting reminiscence. Well, I guess that gives me something to think about then. I guess I will paint something else then. Oh no, I've got dread over here. So I will paint away the restlessness. You've started by replacing most of the astral plane with the Mantis. Okay. So do you, is the party people who are already familiar with this, or are you taking them sort of from the start as Cultist Simulator goes, and they're people who have to discover these things as they go along? Let's go to the Temple of the Wheel. Subtle flaw. This would have been more helpful, but laces uncoil, windows swing open, locks move as if oiled. Last night I came in the wood to the high jagged rock called the Temple of the Wheel. Its flank, patched with, black lichen and eye signs, opened like a mouth beneath my hands. And I walked in the whispering space within. The gods who were stone, the first of the hours, were almost all gone now. But here their voices remain. Wheel, Flint, Tide, and others without names. Okay, so like I said, I'll get rid of fascination with dread. Light leaks through the cracks. My mind is brighter than it ever was. The higher I rise, the more I see. And I've seen too much. A nameless gnawing fear has its teeth in my hopes. An existential horror. They know nothing about Cultist Simulator. Oh, that's really neat. So you're introducing them to the world of this game. So in this case, God, there's so many possibilities then. I almost kind of feel like if you ever needed ideas, you can just sit down, like roll up the game, or like spin up the game, and just give an after action report can be your sort of your campaign notes. That's a really good idea, Green Whisper. It's been so long since I've played a tabletop RPG. I'd kind of like to, but I don't really know that many people in Ottawa who do that sort of thing. So yeah, like that sounds really fun though. The royalty of England, according to Willis Ford, became the sovereigns of the Leashed Flame, destroying or transforming their enemies, conquering Europe, establishing grand cathedrals to St. Spark. The alliance with Forge begins to take its toll. The last few chapters are missing entirely. Details smuggled in from an adjacent narrative. Don't speak this where you may be overheard. Okay. I mean, it's another Secret Histories book, but I'm going to need to read all of these eventually, so. The 17th century mystic and antiquarian Claude Hirschelt describes divergent incidents in 5 major histories. The prologue warns at length about the iniquities of one Julian Cosley, a former colleague who Hirschelt now describes darkly as a worm of worms. It seems Cosley advised Hirschelt early in the writing of the book. but Herschel later became suspicious. They just learned to neat. That's actually kind of interesting too, because like obviously this game spends a lot of time thinking of how to communicate these concepts to you through the cards, and it kind of gives you instruction. It gives you a very clear idea of what actions your character is performing, but the learning that you do in the game is obviously you as the player knowing what combinations work. So it's kind of interesting to think about playing something like a tabletop game where you actually do get your players to make those decisions. The more I think about it, the more it has some really interesting opportunities. I will get back to you in a second, Green Whisper, but the Eyes of Sin 92 has subscribed for 21 months. I think, a little bit more ashamed of the fact that I have been streaming this long as an affiliate than I am appalled at the fact that Eyes of Sin has put this much money towards my broadcasts, and yet here we are. Eyes of Sin is one of the people who always makes me very happy to see her. And this, of course, does not mean that I'm not happy to see other regulars, but the Eyes of Sin is somebody who does have quite a bit of experience on Twitch. In fact, I think it's safe to say a majority of people who watch this cast are probably people who don't watch a lot of Twitch, and so maybe are indifferent to or just don't know, quote unquote, big streamers. But Eyes of Sin is definitely one of these people who has got actually, the funny thing about her is that she seems to have a lot of contacts. It's not just with streamers, but there's a bunch of game developers that she knows, which is always so fascinating because it's, I'll talk about something that I'm really enjoying and she's like, oh yeah, so-and-so. And I'm like, who? And it's like, oh, the person who made, this game. And I'm like, how do you know all these people? But yeah, it's, in this particular case, I get to talk with Sin about sort of Twitch stuff, which is always kind of nice. And on top of that, I sort of know how busy she is, and I know, I kind of know how precious her time is. And so she's always been really encouraging of the stream, especially off cast when there's something that's kind of bugging me, but I don't want to bring it up directly in the broadcast itself. And she's also got a really good taste. So it is always a delight in particular to see her. But of course, most importantly, in addition to these lovely in addition to these lovely emotes that she is displaying on the channel right now, she is the one who did these three, and I'm not going to get tired of shouting them out because I thought she has done just a wonderful job with them. She actually did another emote, which I didn't turn down because I didn't like it. I largely turned it down because I had a really specific idea in my mind about the 3 tiers, and I actually like her idea more than the one that I was more insistent on. And so there's actually hidden works that, with any luck, we'll get in the channel at some point. I don't like pressing these. Actually, I probably shouldn't even say this because she's here right now, but I don't like pressing this because, as you can see, her talents keep her in work. And she did actually gift these to the channel. So, but anyways, in addition to the fact that she has been subscribing for a ridiculously long period of time, and I think Green Whisper can appreciate this particularly, when I am suffering from old and happy far off things, the Eyes of Sin is there to sort of pick me up. So somebody I'm always happy to see, and somebody I want to give a very special welcome to. So, Green Whisper, you also replace the Suppression Bureau with a very isolated and heavy-handed Empire Guards. So, sorry, is that? I just wanted to double check. Are you talking like, is this the British Empire, or is this in a different? Is this a different setting that you've got? Oh no, Empire. You must be talking about the D&D setting. This is probably what I got wrong. And sorry, I got a little sidetracked, but let's do Oriflammes. We'll sell off the Book of Poetry. Again, we don't need the money, but Lord Bullingdon doesn't believe in enough. Sylvia has detailed knowledge of roof ridges, of the river at low tide, of Irish whiskey, and of conjuring tricks. And this is before Claire joined the company. Okay, we got 52 seconds on this swindler, so let's bring Laidlaw into the fold. Laidlaw is a tinkerer and mechanic with an uncanny knack. It's all homebrewed. Okay. Oh, that's good. Did you ever mention that in Cast, Green Whisper? I'm sorry if I forgot, but that sounds like a really cool project that you're doing. I'd love to... Oh, I mean, obviously, there's no pressure for doing so, but I'd love to hear how your campaign goes as you run by. In one sense, it's useful for me now because I'd love to distract from your more distraught happenings, but I'm actually really interested in how that turns out. Yeah, this sounds great. Please share as much as you like or care to as it goes on, because obviously, Cultist Simulator isn't going anywhere here, and I think there's some opportunities for some really cool stories to come out of that. I'm not really doing this thinking that, okay, well, I don't even have anything to do with Nox, so never mind. I can't remember. This one's the right. Yeah, I'm not quite ready to give up a victim. Well, I mean, 5 moth, maybe. Oh, you know what? I might actually be able to summon something out of this. So if I summon the Swindler, I'm not gonna do it, but like, and I guess the only instrument I have is the Spintrea. Oh, not even. That's right. I keep pretending like this is still the beta. All right. The rum and coke is taking care of it right now. Oh, that's good. I mean, I don't want to make too much of a deal of it, right? It's but I don't know. There is a very fine line to draw in terms of casting. There are a lot of broadcasts that definitely make it a point to blur the line. So, in terms of casting, it's in a few situations, because you spend a lot of time and people are very personable on it. It's personality driven. There is this sort of image of friendship with broadcasters. So, you know, the most simple example that you can take is I can actually remember a couple of cases of some casters who are women who I know, and, you know, it was like the first TwitchCon, and there were a number of viewers for whom it was sort of their opportunity to go and, you know, make this grand profession of love to a broadcaster who they had sort of developed a very intense personal feeling for, but who the broadcaster just simply didn't know. And this is, you know, it's not unique to broadcasting, but obviously because a lot of casts do start off very small, and there are some broadcasters who do a very good job of taking large casts, and they're very engaging. They're able to give that individual, like they can give that individual attention even though there's thousands of people inside the chat, or at least they give the approximation of that. Obviously, it leads to some really uncomfortable outcomes and just general unhappiness overall. And there's a darker side to that. Like, obviously on that side, it's a viewer who's maybe not quite respecting that boundary. But there is also an unfortunate tendency sometimes on Twitch for people to realize that the more sort of personal that they wind up making a broadcast, the more it can maximize things like donations and bits and things along those lines. And that one strikes me as a little bit more predatory than obviously the other case. Somebody existing and somebody developing a crush on a broadcaster, the broadcaster hasn't really done a whole lot to create that situation. Whereas a broadcaster, knowing full well that there are people who can sort of misinterpret, or at least if they're leaving a certain degree of gray zone in how they speak to their broadcast, it creates a situation where, certainly they have a financial incentive to do that, but they're maybe not performing the most, upright of actions. But with all of that as sort of a setting, it's hard for me not to see like a regular viewer come in and say, I'm not feeling very good today. And, this game is entirely about the highs and lows and struggling to try and do something that you want. And so it's very difficult to be indifferent to something like that. I also understand sort of my limitations in being able to speak to somebody's circumstances in those particular moments. But I think everybody can sort of understand having a bad day like that. So yeah, it's hard. Like, obviously, like you said, it's not something I shouldn't spend too much time worrying about. But on the other hand, I think it's reasonable to, I think it's nice. I think most of us would feel that it's better if more people in the world were happy than not. But suffice to say, I'm very encouraged. I don't know if you're like, I've definitely felt this way, which is when I'm feeling gloomy, it's actually when I've been my most creative. Like, usually I will start writing around that time, and I wind up being very prolific. So I suppose if you start seeing more regular blogs, you know it's a cry for help. No, please don't do that. I'm actually trying to get more regular on the blogs again. But yeah, I should catch up with a little bit of this. Hey, CKY2 Kendall. Great to see you. 5th edition. By the way, I feel like Eyes of Sin probably will understand more of the D&D references, because I've played, I don't even remember the last edition of D&D that I played. And like I said, I'd love to do more tabletop stuff, but I don't really have the opportunities. You kind of wish that they would take it more seriously from a story point of view. Aasimar name is Throbbin. Jesus, you can't hate it. They can't seem to roleplay, which is fine, except when you're trying to sell a story point is interesting. You forgot to mention you moved again. You live on your own now. Oh, cool. Being lonely is causing your depression, but you try to keep in mind that hopefully someone will come along. Yeah, it's a tricky... I mean, I live on my own as well. It's actually one of the reasons why... I mean, I sometimes wonder if I am less lonely than I am because I do have an outlet in terms of where I'm interacting with people, even if it's just through direct messages and something like that. But yeah, definitely you've got... It's one of these ones where there is something to be said for actual like individual interactions, and it can be a tougher transition. Like in my case, I've always been sort of lucky where when I've moved to places, like I moved out of the house because I wanted to be on my own right away, and like it was, I was going to Vancouver, I was going to start a film career, like it's 100% positive. It's 100% something that I want. So like being on my own is fine that way. Then I had roommates for a little while, and like the roommate, there were money problems, and the roommate, attacked me in the apartment and all of that. So like when I'm leaving, it's like, screw this. I'm happy to be going because this guy is a jackass. So I didn't feel bad about that because I'm on my own. I was like, well, I'm glad I got out of that situation. That one was a positive one as well. The Ottawa one is a little bit trickier because I did have a set of reasons why I moved out that didn't turn out quite the way that I had hoped. But again, like there's other features that make that work. But I've definitely felt like when I was at that period of time between the transition from film to economics, when I really didn't know what to do with myself, and that became pretty bitter. Although I will say I appreciate more so. This is such a terrible change of gears, and I apologize for doing it that way. Your complaints about people's role playing or lack thereof. It's the one thing. In one sense, I love being able to tell jokes around the table, but being able to like, obviously, if you want to tell something like Cultist Simulator, where you've put a lot of effort in and you're trying to, like, make it feel a bit like the game, there's humor in this, but it's not quite in the same sense of, like, you know, I'm playing my mighty, you know, warrior with, you know, biceps that actually can't make it through doorways and such. It's, you know, obviously you kind of want a little more alignment on those, so I hear you. So this is actually helping, talking to someone who you don't work with and you haven't done that in like 4 months. Well, that's great to hear, Green Whisper. I would never want to become a substitute for IRL encounters, obviously, because there's just something about being able to sit down and talk with someone that is worth it. But if I can keep the wolf at the door, and I can, you know, at the very least just send you on onto the dream or the mansis, wherever you do wind up, with some kind words and some lovely writing from Weather Factory, I will feel like I've done my job. Laidlaw has begun to understand the limitations of ingenuity and the power of sacrifice. I might need to go to refill my water. I'm feeling particularly dry today, but I'll pay. Actually, you know what? I'm going to do that right now. I apologize, guys, because I know I did have a fairly long diversion. I'm not going too far away. You'll probably be able to hear the sync while I do this, actually, but I do think I need a minute to get myself sorted. So be back in a sec. Don't go. All right. By the way, you've been learning about all the hours and the histories behind them. Actually, so Green was, I can't tell you what it is, but there's a little secret project I've been working on, which I think you're going to like a lot. It'll still probably take me a couple of months to do, but I'll be in touch when I finish it, because you might find it helpful, or alternatively you might have some insights that will help me with it. You also know, incidentally, have you been on the Cultist Simulator Discord? Because I believe there's an entire group that's dedicated to, you know, to sort of parsing out all of the lore and seeing what's going on in there, so you may find that helpful in your research as well. Hirschhold identifies blood, silver, design, and worms as the central axes of each of the histories, and claims that the so-called second history is the true one. I did want to say a couple of things about upcoming events for the stream. So, for those of you who like the Surviving Mars streams, those are coming back. I've got one tomorrow. Hopefully the transcodes hold up, because I did record it at a higher bit rate. But for those of you who are less familiar with it, it's less of this format. It's something pre-recorded. And I do my best just to kind of keep an even tone like this. Just something a little bit more relaxing, usually generally designed to kind of help people who maybe want to go to bed. There'll be extended periods of maybe quiet, or just a little gameplay, or just talking my way through a particular idea. Anyways, if that sounds like something that's appealing to you, that is both available on YouTube and on Twitch. And again, those are more really dedicated for the people who say that they like falling asleep to the casts. And then there's a special event happening Friday. It may mean, actually it will certainly mean, that I will not be broadcasting on this channel. And I think a few of you know what that means. But there's something special coming up Friday, and it will be Cultist Simulator related. Eyes of Sin says, "Oh, Chalk, a fellow you're acquainted with named Nalzi recently played a bit of this and grew excited when you popped in, as he's apparently seen the interactions you've had with Lottie and Alexis." Where's the queen who was not born? Oh, that's nicely done, Green Whisper. Hell yeah. Are you? Oh, is that in reference to the thing that I'm doing Friday? You don't know what I'm doing Friday. I haven't told anybody about that. The Queen of Vistula is... Sorry, I didn't read what The Queens in the Rivers was. A surreal contemporary play by the enigmatic Monica Medina, in which the queens of the rivers are murdered one by one. The Queen of the Vistula is poisoned. The Queen of the... I can never pronounce this. Napier chokes on a fishhook, and the Queen of the Tagus is burnt alive. Yeah, it's not exactly the most taxing riddle. I think most people tend to know why I don't, if I'm not streaming here, where the other place I'm streaming is. But what I don't think people know is exactly what's going to be streamed. I think that is going to surprise quite a few people. But the best place to know that, I will announce it on Twitter and I will mention it on the Discord, and there will likely be an announcement made elsewhere where other people are familiar with it. But I think you all will be very happy. It takes time to sort the gold from the dross, the wheat from the chaff, the blood from the water. If I buy enough books, I will find something interesting. And actually I should mention too, after that, there's a couple of other things. There's going to be... It won't be as long as Imperator, but there is another game that's going to get an early, sort of an early look. I really like doing those because, again, the purpose of this streaming hobby originally was just to show people some stuff that I really liked on my own. And so, you know, being able to do a game early on, number one, it really works well for me because obviously there's always going to be backseating, but it's a lot harder for someone to sort of justify that they, you know, that they know better when obviously the game has not been yet released and people don't, you know, like, clearly nobody else could have played it. So I like that both for my style of play, which is to discover something and see how it works, as well as to be able to, you know, just kind of share it with people, have that experience. But yeah, so there's one of those is coming up for sure. I need to get word back from another group of people in terms of whether or not I can do something with another thing I'm involved with, which I actually, if it sounds very, like, there's no other way to phrase it, unfortunately. I had to sign something. But if I'm able to share that, or rather when I'm able to share that, I'll be bringing it up. But yeah, it turns out I'm a lot busier than I thought I was. I thought Imperator was going to be like a big sprint for like special events, but it turns out there's a whole other set of those coming up, which I'm excited about. But it doesn't mean that I have to hold off on some of my other Cultist Simulator themed things. But that's fine. We'll make this all work. It tends to work out anyway. Alright, Moth finds light in the dark, and so do I. Kerner and Gut. Well, we've already got a copy, so we're sending it to Oriflammes. This oddity is probably worth something, but it's hard to be sure. I'm certain that my adversary has lodged a copy of their notes elsewhere, with their solicitor, with their superior, or even with a contact in the press. This is troubling. I forgot. So I finished that Bad Blood book by John Carreyrou, the one about Theranos. This is what I'm thinking every time I see tentative evidence. I wonder if you could do a Cultist Simulator themed mod about Theranos. While I was returning to the... Actually, that's already a cultist simulator story, because clearly you've got this character of Elizabeth Holmes who is willing to... They've got this great ambition that they want to pursue. And in this particular case, they go down the path that leads to a lot of really negative actions. Yeah, man, this game explains everything. While I was returning to the depths, one appeared in front of my eyes whose mouth was sealed. When I saw them in the great emptiness, I cried out. I think that last night I met another soul in the wood. I will never recall exactly what we said one to another, but I think we will recognize each other in the waking world. Alright. This is the time, my dear. The sun in rags requires his conclusion. Will it be you, or do you have a friend? What a loyal friend you have here. Do say goodbye now. Dusty facts have come clear in my brain, for now at least. So if we get another opportunity for an erudition, we'll try and move our reason up, but I won't make a special effort for it. The culprit, it transpires, is the audience. The surviving queens are directed to execute whatever audience members do not escape. A surprisingly lucid epilogue suggests that the correspondence of river names with historical events does provide clues to secret histories behind our own. So got an occult scrap. Let's read... Yeah, we'll read the rest of these. So, Kittling Ripe and Moldywarp's Grave and Other Stories, a lusciously illustrated tome of loosely connected children's stories collected by one N.K. Field. Few of them are remotely suitable for children. The protagonist, a speechless cat thing called Kittling Ripe, performs a series of elaborate rites to rescue members of her extended family, culminating in the resurrection of her other grandmother, Moldywarp. You forgot something happened in D&D. One of the players decided to stab himself in the leg and taste his blade before he slept. Don't ask, so you improvised him vomiting sweet red fruit from the grail. They ended up nearly devouring each other before he finally woke up. See, that is the kind of DMing that I like quite a bit. When I suspect that they probably were figuring out something like, following from the prompts of like cutting locks of hair and all of that. But I really do like it when people think on their feet and they're able to sort of incorporate moments like that into more interesting, even though it wasn't intended, they're able to sort of use the jujitsu to make it a memorable moment in the session. I've always really admired DMs who are able to do that, because I'm definitely very hit and miss on my ability to deliver on that front. I did actually want I did want to get the more erudition if I could, so I will keep going for... Nope, what am I doing? Restlessness. They're trying to figure out how to enter the wood. Okay. Just at the edge, but we should be able to manage the peculiar rumor. Dark days. I must be careful not to let doubts creep in. Dread may provoke full-fledged despair. Okay, so colors of the night. The auctioneer's gavel bangs. My item has sold. Surprisingly, for 2 funds. Apparently, that was it's a first edition of Kerner and Gut. I suspect that by the end of the story, I may find someone who will hear what I have to say. A suitable conclusion. My follower is gone. I remain. Poppy Lascelles is seen here and there. She may have more to say to me. So unfortunately, this chilly atmosphere is going to turn into despair. Or dread, rather. And, well, this will probably tick away in time, though, so... The minion has returned, the evidence has been destroyed, and I am a little safer. So I don't think I can put them in the cupboard yet. I don't have much of a use for that. Let's go to the well. Hey, another peculiar rumor. This might lead me to someone I need, or it might mean something else entirely. Explore with a rumor to follow up on it. You improvised a table to figure out the rewards they get for entering doors like you do in the game, and what they get for picking their path. Last session, you got a buzzing in the brain. You know, I've never really been good at figuring out... I've never had a use for buzzing in the brain. I've had use for every other influence, but I've yet to use buzzing in the brain for anything helpful. How did you make buzzing in the brain useful? When the Snake Witch killed the stag, Kitling snatched one of its eyes. When Dry Witch killed the sow, Kitling stole a cup of its blood. When she took them to the place Moldywarp lay buried, and she shook out her hair, and she began to dance. Wood Whisper, lie awake and listen. The wind speaks in the branches, the house cries out in its sleep. These are the roads that chaos ride. Speak this over a corpse in a rite with a winter influence present, and the corpse will rise. So here, I'm going to see if I can move up through the wood. Survey says no. It's got to be lantern, knock, or... I would be shocked if edge, but probably winterwood. Yep, fair enough. Can't use it yet, don't know exactly what they gain. Okay. I'm going to leave Traveling at Night. We'll see if I can get Traveling at Night Volume 1. Or you know what, I probably already got Traveling at Night. We'll read it. The Annotated Dream Journals of Christopher Illopoli, sometimes called the only readable occultist. Literate, entertaining, bewildering. This is the second volume. There's an extensive discussion of the similarities between Illopoli's own dreams and those of the Emperor Elgabalus, who Illopoli regards as a dupe or avatar of the sun in rags. The white is west of the world, Illopoli remarks, and winter does not wait forever. You know what, I think this is the one that actually gives me the tip for the next level through the Mansis, if I remember correctly. I am, Poppy says with a girlish giggle, curious about... Oh, you knew the arts of blood and ice. It's silly, but allow an old woman her whims. Will you help me? Okay, let's take the opportunity to make more money. And we can run out this contentment, I think. It'll help me with the dread that will emerge. Oh, but I should use my talk. Oh, Jesus. Very substantial commission on winter. Why not? Okay, Tristan dislikes distractions. Tristan gets things done. Oops. So this, of course, is going to be building up my notoriety again, but it's nice to have followers. So we've gained a hanger on. Of course, they're not a follower yet, so let's not do that. Peculiar rumor, and the contentment will come out of the... Tristan dislikes distractions. Tristan likes results. I'm gonna have to move this down one for the pawns, I think. I'll find another use for it. Right. Cat Caro, as she styles herself, earns a living as a stage medium and a fortune teller. She may have deeper talents. So, no secret. This one is ready. More rumors! While I was returning to the depths, one appeared in front of my eyes, whose mouth was sealed. When I saw them in the great emptiness, I cried out. I think that last night I met another soul in the wood. I never recall exactly what we said one to another, but I think that we'll recognize each other in the waking world. Okay, so we'll take that, and we will annihilate the dread. Oh, yes, I can. Only after I pick up my paints, though. Let's keep the fresh one. And because I don't have any commissions that I can do, they're all still too expensive. Let's take this contentment and extend its life a little bit. Nope. Oh, hey, I got this erudition just in time. Elgabalus found his way to the White Door at last, thankfully. Speechcat passed the White Door, and honestly, Elgabalus never had anything very interesting to say. I tried to follow in his footsteps, but I never learnt enough of the White. But I suppose I'm thankful for that too. But here's what I do know. So, Sexton's Secret isn't enough for us to advance, but in this case we'll double up the erudition. I believe 3 lessons learned, so I can use 2 of the collection of essays, or I can try and I can try my luck with research and other means. What's coming up next? Fascination. Before they speak the words, the novice must sharpen the knife so it can separate the drifting thread, and be not sharp enough, it will be the worse for them. A bright-eyed, watchful woman who recalls her dreams perfectly. Victor. Victor is a sly fellow, and he knows an unusual opportunity when he sees it. You might be able to recruit this acquaintance as a follower. Sadly, Sin, we do not have Neville yet, but I will let you know as soon as we get him. Okay, another hanger-on, more notoriety. Let's explore a peculiar rumor. Before they speak the words, the novice must sharpen the knife so that it can separate a drifting thread, and it be not sharp enough, it will be the worse for them. So I've got my 3 grand... I don't even know what to call them. In this case, I will get the hangers on, but I think I probably need to start thinking a little bit about how I'll do more. This one is ready. What I might want to start doing here is cycling out some of the older notoriety, but the reason I'm going to hang on to the 4 that I can, I guess I did lose one. No, I still have 4. So I was thinking, it's like, okay, do I really want to hang on to like the 6.7, the 1.6, and so on and so forth? And the answer is yes, because I'm worried about getting arrested. It's obviously not that hard for me to paint something out until there's 10 seconds left on the counter and just let those tick down, whereas I have no options with 225 and 287 items, so I am going to keep with that. I also want to check something really quick on my... so I just need to check something in another window. Interesting. Okay. My mind the library. Use this lesson learnt with your scholarship skill. Okay. A can of nitrate film labeled Stumm, silent, or perhaps mute. The director's name, Genrik Krosse, is shakily appended. film rattles through the projector, glows silently on the wall. It is the story of a foolish student of forbidden sciences who recruits a dancer to entice the dead back into the world through a flaw in its skin. It's a fiction, but here on the title card is laid out the operation of the declining sun. Before they speak the words, the novice must sharpen a knife so it can separate a drifting thread, and it be not sharp enough, it will be the worse for them. So I've gained an edge pawn, and I'm also running out of room. What else can I do here? Oh right, the last hanger on. Sorry, just getting a little forgetful. All right, back to the way of the woods, and we will use our passion. Unpromising address, but a promising resident. Hey, Eyes of Sin, look who it is. Neville. Neville pauses before he speaks and flinches easily. He laughs whenever he thinks you've made a joke. I think I'm gonna leave the work for a bit. Let's go to Moorlands. This is my heart pawn. Let's recruit Neville. I've always wondered. The rite is depicted in chilling detail. Here is the flaw in the world, an influence shimmering in luminous paint. Here is the dancer establishing an irresistible rhythm. Here the scholar recites the operation, and now the misty dead whirls through the flaw to consume him. The film closes on the dancer's watchful eyes. Had she intended it all from the start? We have gained the sunset rite and an operation of the declining sun. This invokes, acknowledges, and welcomes the passage to silence. I know what I want to do now. There is a house in the wood and a door where the dead sometimes go. I have read the paths the dead take. Found something noteworthy in a collection of poetry. There are the bounds about the house, with their mists and their traces. This is the rock called the Temple of the Wheel, high as a church spire, patched with black lichen, daubed with eye signs. I round it, and there ahead of me is the white door, aglow like the moon in winter. In my dreams, I know the path to the white door through the bounds, but the path is thronged with the dead that pass this way. I will need health to resist the chill. Now I can approach the white door through the bounds. Now I can press my fingers to it, feel its chill, watch it swing open. As it opens, my mouth closes, tightens, heals over like a lost deformity. Around and about me is the cobalt light of the Mansus. Alright, Moorlands. Get me more stuff. Only, actually, fire it. Neville pauses before he speaks and flinches easily. He's sensitive to deeper matters. Alright, I'm going to try doing some things with the talk verb that I haven't been able to do before. So, let's have a chat with Enid. Significant conversations in smoky meeting room. What do I need from my follower? Invite them to an evening at the Ecdysis Club. I don't think that's for me. here we will read Rapton the King. Detailed accounts by James Colin Murphy of secret bacchanals and ecstatic dances observed in necropolises and graveyards in southern Europe, in Egypt, and in Anatolia. The author is a self-confessed ghoul, an eater of buried flesh, and claims to have witnessed the dances while at his feasting. The dances draw from the traditions of the mysteries of the cults of Isis and Sibyl, but include both symbolic and literal flayings, and the human heart is always central in the rites. The author punctuates his accounts with quasi-sensuous descriptions of his own interrupted feasts. I kind of lost track of the lesson learned. I may not have enough time to be able to work with this now. My bad. Another collection of essays, very well. Let's see what I can do to get this pawn running around. Nope, another Season of Suspicion. Okay, well I can get Restlessness, the Orchard of Lights, Lodge of the Sage Knight. So let me paint. Some dead are lost in the wood, some rise higher, but many, so many, pass the white door into the house and become silent forever. Last night they thronged the entrance, our mouths were healed wounds, their eyes roamed my skin. Their hands sought my warmth, but my touch burnt, and they drew back. Their urgency infected me. Okay, let's go through... Yeah, we can go through the white door again. Clouds part. I found somewhere unusual. Maybe this will be more too... Enid looks up directly into your eyes. A sudden dragonfly brightens. Yes, she says. That is, by the way, the classiest date move ever. You're taking Enid to the Ecdysis Club, and she's obviously really uncomfortable with it. And then you just slide in the last minute. Oh, actually, we're going to Street Strange by Moonlight. Remember that one. Unless, of course, you're dating someone like Rhaenyra, and then it's you go to Street Strange by Moonlight, and, you know. Yeah, anyways. The light is silver, the breeze is cool, the night's silence invites words as dark velvet invites a finger's touch. To begin an affair with this character, show them that your deepest desires are aligned. Ooh, will Enid want power? Probably not. At the greater feasts, a black pig is always crowned as king before its slaying, and on this occasion, its heart was weighed in the balance against a knot of feathers, and its skin became a cape for the officiant. Its flesh was left for the crows, but I must confess my interest was not in the carcass, but in the perfumed flesh of the milliner laid fresh in this earth. And the waking chant, who could hear this and remain unmoved? The sleeping, the dead, the earth and the sky? Yeah, we'll keep it up there. And the Viennese Conundra. Nico van Drell describes odd events in Vienna, the disappearance of children, epidemics of parasite activity, animal mutilations, nightmares of worms, the activities of a charitable organization, the Newlegians that funds the burial of the poor. She proposes peculiar connections between these activities. When the individual K attends the meetings, black dogs are sacrificed and quartered. When the individual M is in attendance, black mares are found with their throats slashed. I propose that these sacrifices are not necessary, but that our Legion friends may consider them fitting. Herewith diagrams of the mutilations. Okay. Just thinking for a minute. Actually pays reasonably well. I just want to test that again. I hope the season doesn't drag that out. Okay, so it looks like it just didn't turn out at all. So, Rhaenyra? Rhaenyra doesn't say a word. She only stretches splendidly and rises to stalk from the room, but she sends me a long glance back over her shoulder as she goes. I'm moving on, Miss Morland informs you. My stock is largely exhausted, and the Suppression Bureau are taking an interest, so it's goodbye. This last book is nonsense, but I've tucked some interesting papers into the back as a thanks for your custom. Alright. Higher level knock. Hello, Dordox. Should just caution you are getting probably in the closing. I'll try not to make it exactly the 15 minutes that I've got. I will just warn you that I'm getting close to wrapping up. So I apologize for doing that, but thank you for coming by. And I will make the most of the time that we have together for sure. I'm trying to date one of my cultists, which is the first time I've ever done this. So, all right, and something deep mystery something, a dreadful souffle of half-digested rumor about the secret worlds and the irrelevance of contemporary morality, including a catalogue of unlikely and probably invented debaucheries. Well, you know what? Let's just sell that right now. Hopefully this isn't tied up for too long. Alright, let's go to the Orchard of Lights. Hey! Forgotten Chronicles, nice. A story of a city without a gate, of a queen who was not born, of a war which was not fought. Exploring with this scrap of knowledge may uncover secret locations on the continent. Last night, I walked in the Orchard of Lights, and I plucked the fruit, which is always ripe, and consumed it in 2 bites. The taste is not to be forgotten. As I licked the glowing juices from my fingers, I saw a message carved into the bark of the tree. When I woke, I recorded that message, all I could remember in my diary. Yeah, no worries, Dordox. It's one of the things I always feel so bad about because it usually seems to be that people find this channel through YouTube, but they find it at a time where I'm wrapping up. And it's even worse because I used to stream from Vancouver, so I'm 3 hours ahead from what I normally do, and I built up something of an audience for that time slot, and it's completely impractical for me to do now. I would essentially be starting at the time that I stop, and I have early mornings at work, which was not something I normally had to deal with, so it does unfortunately mean I don't get a chance to interact with everyone, but I actually really love it when people who have come to the channel through YouTube self-identify as that, because it's been really rewarding to see people take up, like, I don't think I have a profile image for YouTube yet. Like, it was really just a place where I could keep the archives, and yet it's very apparent that people love the Cultist Simulator stuff. So the one thing I will let you know is there will be something coming up for Cultist Simulator. It won't be on this channel, but if you follow the Weather Factory Twitter, you'll know what it is, and I'll definitely be doing that for longer, so you'll get a chance to see it. But thank you for coming by anyway. Like I said, I'll make the most of the time. But if I disappoint, as I feel I inevitably must, if you're around on Friday, even though it won't be on this channel, there'll be some cultist stuff for you for sure. Alright, I think I'm going to keep going through the White Door for now. I'm certain that my adversary has lodged a copy of their notes elsewhere, with their solicitor, with their superior, or even with a contact in the press. This is troubling. I probably should be dealing with that. Just get a favor from an authority. I have dreamed of the forge, and I've longed for the heat of her flames. It is almost time to perform the work and begin the changes. I must have enough forge aspect. Exploration might find more. Oh, that's great to hear. Do you mind if I ask what exams you're studying for? I'm not. I mean, it's been a couple years now since I graduated, but I'm always interested in what people are studying. Medusa's riddle, then, I choose to render as what is not seen. There is another riddle, one I have heard rendered as what may be lost. I will delineate some historic attempts to answer it. These are in themselves, in some sense, sacrifices. I'm curious, actually. I don't think moth is enough to... Oh yeah, we've already decided. Wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. Aha. I knew I was doing something wrong. Oh, game design student, but you're cramming for your Econ 200. Well, okay, Econ 200. I am an economist by trade, so if you have... This is your chance to get some free TAing. But that's very cool, game design. I don't know if there was ever a game design element in my university, but I have tried and failed to look at some tutorials online, and I am fascinated how people learn stuff like that. It's hard. You enjoy economic and political theory, but that's far different from calculating deadweight loss and the effect of tax and price ceilings. Yeah, so one of the things about me is that, and this is totally an economist answer to this as well. So I found econ made a lot of sense. It was a framework for thinking that I really lined up with, and I completely appreciate that it is very counterintuitive to work with. And I think what it comes down to, it's the same reason why some people struggle with math. It is, if you like math, it's almost like what I'm about to say is not surprising at all. And that would be that math actually clarifies things rather than confuses them. And yet if you're not good at math, this statement is borderline insulting. And I say this as somebody who struggled with math. By the way, I much prefer the British way of saying it, of maths, but I've been trained to say math, so apologies to people who hear my barbarian words. Hey, Melemony. But the thing is that math is actually very precise in its notation, and that's why it sometimes feels like you're learning this very capricious set of rules, because if you leave any fuzziness in math, then the whole thing falls apart. So what does this have to do with econ? Econ works in a very similar way. So the specific thing that you say here, in terms of deadweight loss, or, tax or price ceilings, like the one thing, usually when you're in like first and second year courses, the big thing you always come back to is this one idea of, realistically, we want to get what we pay for. So what this means is, if there's something that's intervening in an otherwise perfectly operating market, and there's less produced than society wants, there's a deadweight loss, because you have people who are willing to pay more for an item who are not getting it. And this usually is an argument for some kind of government intervention to, cure any blockage. Likewise, if there's overproduction, similar idea. Society is paying more than what is desirable, and that amount that is more is the deadweight loss. So what are real-life examples of this? Well, greenhouse gases. If you fill up a car, you're thinking about the enjoyment or the utility you will get from the consumption of fuel. You think of your private benefit of being able to drive, or whatever you're doing with this, this carbon-emitting substance. But socially, everybody making those decisions, clearly everybody's considering the private benefit, and yet the outcome for society is obviously one in which we're not just getting the enjoyment out of driving, or again, whatever you're using it for, but they are getting this pollution, which is a negative. And so this is why a lot of economists propose things like carbon taxes, because what a carbon tax does is it embodies the cost to society of the consumption of fuel. And the idea here is that you can still decide, if you say at this true price, you still want to use it, then that's fine. You hit a socially optimal allocation. And so once you start thinking about things like taxes or price ceilings, what you wind up doing is you draw a graph and you just sort of wind up shifting the schedule through which these things happen. So if I add, a $1 tax to the sale of every copy of Cultist Simulator, because clearly it corrupts the minds of children, and, corrupting the minds of children is a net negative for society, which has not been realized by the video game. Let's make it a video game tax in general. That video games as a whole are corrupting the minds of children, and it's making them lazy, and they're ignoring their studies. But we also appreciate that there's some value of entertainment. And so what's happening when people buy video games is they're thinking of the entertainment, but there's a social cost in the form of lost productivity. And what we want to do is we want to make sure that society is getting this right. Now, the reason why I'm framing it this way is one of two things. If that doesn't exist, and you say, let's just put a $1 tax on video games, then what you do is you shift the prices for video games. Every single point on this schedule for video games, it's gone up by $1. So you've moved it over to the side, and clearly there's a set of people who would want to buy video games but don't want to buy them at that $1 higher price. The tax is what's imposed that. So you get a little bit of revenue from the tax, but you're never going to be able to make up the foregone enjoyment of Cultist Simulator because you priced it too high. And it's the same story if you make price ceilings, price floors, anything along those lines. Really what you're doing is you're trying to say, have we accounted for a cost that wasn't previously accounted for? And that's usually stated inside of the question. Or have we... Sorry, you didn't even ask for help on econ. I feel a little bit bad about this now, but this is kind of for the benefit of some other folks. Yeah, and actually one of the reasons why cigarettes are really popular for taxes is they're what's known as an inelastic good. So if you, generally, if you raise the price on cigarettes, people don't... fewer people stop smoking. It's not proportional to the increase of the price. You actually need to increase the price a lot to get people to stop smoking. So one of the reasons why cigarettes are, well, first of all, they're popular as a business because, again, you can jack up the price and people will still buy them. But on top of that, they're popular to tax because, again, you increase the taxes on cigarettes and you get more revenue. People don't select out of buying cigarettes at a rate proportional to increasing your tax. Same with fuel, by the way. In the long run, people switch to things like biking, walking, public transit. But in the short run, people generally still drive. So Dordoc says, that's really cool. You never looked at greenhouse gas as an example of deadweight lost. We have almost an obscene obsession with markets in the most typical sense, which is frustrating. Once you get the rules down and you learn the rules, the calculations are easy, but there are so many models and rules to remember, you struggle to keep them all in your head. Yeah, and that's it's really hard for me to say this because I know, I did... 2 years at a college where I first thought I was doing philosophy, then I thought I was doing finance, and then I got into econ, and the stuff you're struggling with was holy crap, this is such a cool way of looking at the world. So I get that I'm wired a little bit differently than people. But by the way, I will just quickly say, if you were to go to your econ teacher and say that greenhouse gases are an example of a deadweight loss, they'll actually tell you that it's a negative externality, which is a slightly different thing, and that is technically correct, but the deadweight loss is just a term that they use in your class to sort of identify, here is the cost of this misallocation of resources. So the presence of negative externalities means that there's an inefficient allocation of resources, which is producing a deadweight loss. I'm only saying that because I know you're studying, and it's important to be precise about this stuff, because if I'm not, then I might mislead you in your exam and you'll rightly resent me for doing that. So just leaving that as an aside. Oh, that's really cool. Yeah. I never wound up doing that much philosophy in school, but I still like reading it. But yeah, the thing to keep in mind about the rules is that it is as close as economics majors will get to common sense. So if you begin with a simple principle, like if the price goes up, do you buy more of it or do you buy less of it? If you think to your own experience, you're usually going to get this question right. You'll get weird examples like Giffen goods where the consumption goes up when the price goes up. You know, these are usually luxury goods. But like, whatever, you can worry about the exceptions once you get the fundamentals down. And then you sort of say, it's like, okay, so what happens when you put a tax on this? Well, again, the price goes up by whatever the tax is. Okay, well, what does that mean? Usually what you're doing is you're comparing it to the status quo. You're comparing it to a situation where, if you didn't have the tax, what would have happened? And the reason you build a model is you need to come up with a set of rules in terms of how the world behaves. So obviously there's technically no law of the universe that says that people need to buy less when the price goes up. It just so happens that the most commonly observed behavior of people is that if they pay more, if they give up more of their labor or whatever it is they did to get the money, generally if they have to give up more to get something, that something becomes less attractive, and that's usually because the prices of other things haven't changed. If the price of a good goes up and the price of all the other goods go up by the same amount, then nobody changes their behavior. And that's one of the reasons why you have rules like that, is that in the cases that you'll do in an econ class, they're usually very simple and they're very stylized. But once you learn those, you actually wind up with a fairly expressive set of models that will allow you to go a bit further. And in reality, like, the stuff that you'll learn in first and second will kind of get replaced by the higher level stuff. And I know you're a design student, so this is not stuff you worry yourself about. But what's kind of neat, I actually found that I played games a lot more after I did economics, because I was really focused a lot on rules and how people behave in response to them. So if you it's hard not to get, like, I'm about the only person I know who has a passion for economics. But if you focus on that course, it's not just that you'll learn some useful things if you do decide to be selling your own games. Obviously, designing and selling are two different disciplines. But I actually think you can make an argument that an understanding of economics can potentially inform good game design decisions. Because in the end, economics is studying these individual agents that are attempting to optimize their behavior. You're trying to maximize utility. Utility is just simply a numerical representation of the stuff that you want. And so, sometimes what economists need to do is they need to come up with a set of rules that will abide by. In Canada, we're going to be selling off some spectrum for cell phones and things like that. And there's a bunch of rules that have been implemented in terms of making sure that the government, which essentially means society, gets enough money in exchange for sort of giving these corporate entities the ability to use that space. Obviously, there's a public good, the airwaves. You can't have everybody just rush into that common area and use it all at once, then the cell phones wouldn't work. But you don't just want to give it away either, because how do you allocate it that way? So essentially they allocate it to the people who are willing to pay, who will make the most out of it. But then, of course, we've got Melemity's talking about price fixing. In Canada, we only have like 3 major telecom providers, and so we pay a lot more than everybody else for that. And so one of the things that they're trying to do right now in the spectrum auction is to say that a certain amount of spectrum needs to be reserved for players who are not the major players in order to bring competition inside the industry. And of course, economics also gives you some ideas in terms of why industries with more players will have outcomes that are closer to that socially desirable number than an area with fewer players. And again, they're all rules that you need to learn. They're all very difficult in certain cases, but there's a structure behind it. And if you can understand that structure, it's actually something that will get you very far. So hopefully that'll at least give you a little motivation for your classes. It's part of the reasons you're taking the course on top of philosophies. You have some quibbles with how your school is teaching it, but as an American student, you're being used to price gouge for all you're worth. Yeah, that's not unique to the US, but definitely, I mean, in Canada, I was very lucky. I do know that there's a certain amount of subsidy that goes into universities for Canadian students. And of course, I did get some scholarships and such. So I'm still paying off, I'm still paying off the cost of going to school, but it definitely was not, that was much more about rents than it was about the cost of going to school itself. But I wish you the best in it. Melemity says it could certainly help you guess at moves players may make if they feel that their resources are being crimped or grown flesh. Well, I mean, actually, Melemity, the best I can say would be Stellaris. So, you have a certain number of competing priorities. What's the best what is the thing that you need to, what's the thing that you need to accomplish most? And again, all that utility is doing is it's just simply mapping a set of decisions that you make in that game, which generally you can't do mathematical analysis on, into a series of numbers, and those numbers have a certain order because you think certain actions have a certain order. And again, it's just a matter of sort of creating a series of rules that make for interesting outcomes. Yeah, well, I also tend to be really heavy on industry in terms of Stellaris. So, oh dear, did I lose my? Where's my desire? I know we had like the Season of Ambitions, but I'm supposed to get it back after that. Oh. Yeah, I should be able to get this back. The ascent is slow, winds from nowhere pluck at me. My skin is stained with light, the wood shivers with motion far below. The auctioneer's gavel bangs, my item is sold. For nothing, apparently. Alright, so I guess we only have the temporary headquarters. No, we have the temporary headquarters and the Ecdysis Club. So let's get the pawn doing their thing. Long day. Oh, cool. Pays pretty well. The Stag Door, a ridged barrier of blood-streaked horn, huge enough for a ship to pass. It was broken long ago, and even now the scars are not quite healed. In a declivity beside the door rests a vast and wounded golden head. Its mouth would be large enough to swallow me, were its jaw not shattered. Its name, Girby, it begins to intone its riddle. Oh, that's really neat. What are some of the best tabletop games you played lately, Dordox, if you don't mind me asking? Where is mercy found? Answer this riddle to pass the Stag Door and be accounted a no. We need a little more work. You can give a list if that makes it better. Oh, I guess Rhaenyra isn't about the power either. The evening is going in a direction I hadn't intended. Did I just say the wrong thing? Or were we just hopelessly unsuited? That's interesting. So I didn't see something with... that didn't say anything with Enid. Temporary headquarters doesn't quite work in this case. Huh. I'm trying to think of any other locations I can take them. I don't think I need a bomb maker yet. It's good to know I have the option. We've been super involved in Apocalypse World, Blades of the Dark design movement. That whole space is some of the coolest fiction-first games the indie space has seen. I actually haven't... I'm partly asking just because I don't know that much about board games, but these look... Burning Wheel game at the moment. The game is weird, complex, and fascinating. I'm going to be taking some notes on these just so I can follow up on them. Your game is a hack of a hack of a hack. For example, you're trying to turn XCOM into tabletop RPG. That's neat. I think Fantasy Flight... Were they the ones who did it? I think there's an XCOM board game, but it sounds like what you're doing is a bit different. I'm just going to translate the Orchid Transfigurations. All right. Rose grins. Thank you. I'm very fond of the club. My brother used to take me there. That's a story. More Dungeons and Dragons than Pandemic or Scythe. Okay. Oh yeah, sorry, you said tabletop RPG. That's totally different. Sorry, I'm just not thinking straight. Many of the dead enter the Mansis through the White Door. They wander its corridors in silence until they are lost. Some embrace each other, some devour each other, some force their way into the dreams of the living. A few record their memories on Mansis stone where it is soft. They scratch it with their nails, you see. Last night, I read one of those memories. Alright, I'm just trying to think if there's anything else I want to do with dreaming. At the moment, no. At the moment, I think I want to go back through the White Door. I mean, if I really want to make any progress, I need to upgrade my lore. I played Pandemic. I haven't played. I have not played Scythe, unfortunately. If I'm thinking of beginning a dalliance, then really this is the place. If I and my companion share the same sensibilities. Yeah, I won't hire that hireling. Oh, so it does a long day, some flung coins, most turned away. It is difficult to watch so many retreating backs for so many hours. Okay. Let's deal with our circumstances. Oh, that's right. I don't actually have any, I don't really have any notoriety to speak of now. Alright, fair enough. Passion it is. Put our heart and soul into it. The evening is going in a direction I hadn't intended. Did I say the wrong thing, or are we just hopelessly unsuited? Damn it! I can't find the woman of my dreams. Alright. Apparently, I don't have the right... I don't have the right locations anymore. I'll have to deal with the sickness. Scythe is weird. It's a strategy game completely without uncertainty. It tries to mitigate all possible instances of chance to be fair and completely fair and balanced, which is fine until people do the math and work through all the permutations. Yeah, I've never been like that for a game that I play. I appreciate people who can do that. I've just never found that a rewarding way to play games personally. I know there's a lot of people who really like diplomacy because it has the feature too. Forgotten Chronicle. A story of a city without a gate, of a queen who was not born, of a war that was not fought. Last night, I entered the lodge of the Sage Knight. My hostess manifested as an elegant woman with fashionably short hair and dark glasses. No, she admits, I don't need them anymore, any more than I need eyes. Allow me my sentimentalities. But you've come for knowledge, I expect. Here's a story I heard in my Carisham days. You're welcome to it. Only remember me if you come to make the pilgrimage. I think I'm gonna do this. No, I should probably deal with my affliction here, so. Alright, Cat Caro doesn't want the Ecdysis Club. I mean, Street Strange by Moonlight seems like the most on-brand option, but... Hunter has found notoriety, they will use it to create... Oh yeah, I don't think that's true, though. Oh, I just exhausted a bunch of passion doing that. My bad. Sure. Nothing then, for now. Oops. I've prepared the text for study. Sorry for the silence, by the way. I'm trying to manage a few of these things. Course of the Heart, so I've gotten my health back, which is good. Let's go back through the white door. You like diplomacy a lot for how it's designed. The fact that the only way to win is by backstabbing your friends is genius, even if it's broken more friendships than it's made. I've never actually played it, because I believe it requires quite a few people, if memory serves. But yeah, like I said, there's a bunch of people who swear by that game, so I'm intrigued. Okay, let's see if we can hit it off with Cat Caro. Hey, Cat lifts her teacup, drains it to the dregs, tilts the cup to study it critically. Why not, she says. Why not indeed. Okay, I'm gonna keep translating works before I go reading them. Oh, I can also use my pawn to look for people. Save for now, my adversary does not have enough evidence, so more good news. I don't really need the fortune teller, so I'll hold back on that. Though I see things, I see that you're different. I bet you say that to everyone. Oops. Well. I'm just gonna get contentment out of that, but no luck. I will consider tonight a success if we can romance at least one of my followers. Maybe I'll romance like a hired thug or something. Well, this will at least let me paint. Wait, where'd the Orchid Transfigurations go? And this one's Latin, so... Okay, we'll send the pawn off. Now I can take advantage of all my mystique. Oop. Apparently I messed up on the liaison part, so let's try that again. We'll explore with the pawn. Not quite ready to hire the shifty woman. Oh, this is probably gonna pull out my ambition from underneath me. Oh well. I do kind of want the furtive truth. Yeah, actually I'm gonna take the furtive truth. Many of the dead enter the manses through the white door. They wander the corridors in silence until they are lost. Some embrace each other, some devour each other, some force their way into the dreams of the living. A few record their memories on mansis stone, where it is soft. They scratch it with their nails, you see. Last night, I read one of those memories. Let's keep translating. Oh, we already did that. Okay, so Greek. Okay. The light is silver, the breeze is cool, the night's silence invites words as dark velvet invites a finger's touch. To begin an affair with this character, show them that your deepest desires are aligned. Yep, there that goes. Maybe I'll get the restlessness back in time. Yeah, there we go. We'll see if that works. Like I said, I've never done the romance options before, so I'm kind of curious how this all turns out. I'm also trying to figure out what the earning rate for decrepitude is. The evening is going in a direction I hadn't intended. Did I say the wrong thing, or are we just hopelessly unsuited? Apparently, we're just hopelessly unsuited. Sylvia? Sage Knight. Oh. Light leaks through the cracks. My mind is brighter than it ever was. The higher I rise, the more I see. How did you get the romance options trigger? So as far as I can tell, you talk with a character. So it's almost... okay, so I'm experimenting with this now because I've never actually used it before. But the first intuition that I had when I was playing on a private game was... how do you ask a character out on a date? And to answer that, it is essentially... The answer is basically like what you do in real life. You invite someone somewhere. And so I'm like, okay, well, let's chat with a character. And it says, you know, locations are available. So that seems to be fair game. And sure enough, so I'll give you an example here. Let's see, Sylvia. I'm so disappointed Rose wanted none of it. So significant conversations in smoky meeting room. What do I need from my follower? So your options are annoyance, ingredient, tool, society, hunter, maverick, location, and evidence level. So you have a few options, but if you go through this logic of how do you start, a liaison with a character, the location is involved. So it's like, hey, let's go to Oriflamme's. Okay, not for them. Ecdysis Club? Sure, why not? Sylvia yawns. She lifts her eye patch edge to scratch an itch in the hollow beneath. Ripping, she drawls. So we're gonna go to the Ecdysis Club. Ah, damn it, I meant to read the text of that, sorry. Because that was something we hadn't read before. Let's go through. Now, how you progress, I have no idea. That's kind of what my experience here is going to be about. but we will find out together. But yeah, in terms of how do you get them to trigger, it's I put them on the... I basically just selected the right conversation topic with the character I wanted to be sweet on. Alright, one last book to translate for now, and then we need to start exploring places. Alright, lots of streets. Heart pumps more strongly today. Neville is the best to be sweet on. You think Lord Bullingdon should be sweet on Neville? Do you think that this is an appropriate match for Neville? I'm trying to protect him. Alright, let's go for another Bird of Truth. Many of the dead enter the mansis through the white door. They wander its corridors in silence until they are lost. Some embrace each other, some devour each other, and some force their way into the dreams of the living. A few record their memories on the mansis stone where it is soft. They scratch it with their nails, you see. Last night, I read one of those memories. Alright, let's... My companion's breath comes short as they watch the display on the stage. Not particularly when the bodies of the performers are unsheathed, but most of all when certain transformations are manifested. Okay. New book. The evening is going in a direction I hadn't intended. Did I say the wrong thing? Or are we just hopelessly unsuited? So maybe you can only... I mean, maybe Valsine is my only option here. But I think Eyes of Sin really wants... You don't want anyone to break his small Neville heart? Alright, well, Eyes of Sin, I'll leave it to you. I was gonna go for Valsine next. But should I try someone else? Do you want to see me try to romance Neville as Lord Bullingdon? What else was I gonna do? White door. I was going to read... I think what is contained by silver might actually have the answer to the riddle. A dire bestiary of the horrors to be found in mirrors. This is a recent edition of a 3rd century text by Pomander. What are my intentions with my sweet small level? Just romance. I can romance someone else. Valsine, you know. It's actually, I suspect that there is a crossover between characters. Because it seems weird that you would have to have... Like, it would basically mean that, like, Lantern characters, you romance them when you're doing an Enlightenment run. But then that would mean that because there's no... Like, in the case of Enid and Neville, we don't yet have a Nock legacy, so surely there must be some way of doing those romance. Alright, well, I'll try Valsine first, just to see if this power business works out. I guess maybe Oriflamme's? Valsine nods curtly, but her eyes glow as coals do when a furnace door is opened. The professional muscle will be able to deal with the detective if he becomes too annoying. If I didn't spend so much time trying to romance these characters, I'd probably be a lot further along on recruiting new people. Uh-oh. We're doomed. I've dreamed of the forge, and I long for the heat of her flames. It is almost time to perform the work and begin the changes, but I must have enough forge aspect. Exploration might find more. More restlessness, that's what I need right now. Pulsing airs, rising power, reassuring energy, a 6-order influence, significant residences or correspondences that can be used in some rites to summon minions. The hours have been called unmerciful, but they permit sleepers sometimes to walk the Orchard of Lights, where each fruit glows like a sunset, where the roots of the trees are shaped for a peaceful rest, where the mist soothes the heart. I was there last night, and the taste of the fruit lingers, sharp and sweet as the passage of spring to summer. Alright. The virgin's maidens of the mirror favor orchids. The behindlings favor the rhododendron. Cut flowers of either nature should not be placed before polished bronze. An appendix contains a rite which might be used to summon some of these entities, although the details of its use are not made clear. So we've got the Rite of the Watchman's Sorrow, and we've got a Mansus glimpse, a snatch of poetry, a single memory of a certain house that all of us visit at least twice in our lives. For one's first visit to the Mansus, this lore is almost essential. Nothing for the hireling. Let's try and impress Valsine. To rise together. Oh, hey, that works. Some prefer moonlit walks, some prefer soft music, but there are those who enjoy shining opulence, high company, and the soft click of the operations of power. Valsine inches closer as we speak together. When she takes my hand, the machine strength of her fingers is matched by the embery heat of her skin. I'm not light, she warns me. We should establish tolerances. That is... I like that line a lot. Sorry, I was so caught by finally finding romance with Valsine. Yes, let's read An Orchid Transfigurations Volume 1. The first volume of a compilation of quasi-Rosicrucian allegories, supposedly by Robert Flood. This is a later English translation. And get him to search, and we'll paint for contentment. Do we even have... Yes, we've got Mystique. Oh, and we'll go through the door. All right. This is someone who has developed a romantic interest in me, so I'm curious what else I can do about this. Yeah, going back to Oriflamme's doesn't seem to do anything. Literally give her my heart. Solitude. Some days are better than others. Some days the sky is nothing like a filthy sheet. Sometimes the river runs clear. Okay. Gives me something to paint with. Probably should have read that. Flood, or pseudo-flood, suggests alignments between the alchemical tradition of Rubidao and older Grail traditions, although the Pine Knight's quest for this... through the Pine Knight's quest for the Cinnabar Cup. Nothing, then, apparently. Okay. What else? Oh, here's what I can do. Tell the weary detective something spooky. And then... Nope, I should have used that. More exotic cravings. Sorry, that was going to be romance, but I was wrong. Don't want to hire them. Okay, so we can paint this one away. Seek the cup in the birthing bed, the Pine Knight is told. The midwife at the birthing bed, to his amazement, is the Mountain Mother. In a fit of awe, he both gelds and flays himself. The vigilant storm bursts joyfully from the remains. So we've got the Megalesian incantation. No icy atmosphere. I recall my dream. This was the lodge of the blue silk, flapping in the winds of the bounds at the Mansus's edge. And here was its mistress, who welcomed me as she welcomes all travelers. Company is nice, she confided, but I still miss my Christopher. 10 years. 10 years and not enough. We could not have been long together, not without touching each other. And you know what occurs when a man long lies with a long woman. Or perhaps you don't. I hope you don't. I won't tell you just in case. I will give you a tiny gift. Alright. Again, we'll toss this one out. Yes, there are terrible things in the world, but that's all the more reason to resist them. I should thank you. You've shown me what I must do. This hunter has become tenacious and an idealist. Damn it, Douglas. Okay. No. One of these. Hey, romance is coming. If I have a particular friend, now is the time to renew our connection. My lover is not easily satisfied, but then nor am I. Sin. When I am done, we'll both sleep deeply, but I'm not done yet. Inspiration, dread. No more. Despair, the wolf that devours thought. I am alive. Am I alive or am I dead? It no longer matters. I allowed the despair token to reach 3 dread or injury. Alright, so why did I do such a foolish thing? Well, the answer will come on Friday. We'll begin another descent by then. We didn't have too much progress inside of that one, so that wasn't too bad. But I do finally have my achievement for a despair loss. I think the other standard one that I need to do is... I think I need a Bars Across the Sun loss as well. But there we have it. That was today's Cultist Simulator, and my apologies if that was a little different ending than you were expecting. But there are plans underway, so to see the next little bit of this story, stay tuned. I will have it. I will have it up later. But yeah, partly that was a choice. Like, I'm sure some of you who've seen me play this for a while know that I know better than some of the choices that I was making. But I was ultimately deciding which of the achievements could I more likely get by the end of tonight. And as far as what the second part of this particular story is going to be, Friday it is. Just a reminder for those of you who tend to watch me on Twitch, it will not be on Twitch. But I believe if you follow me on Twitter, if you follow the Discord, it'll be announced there. If you follow Weather Factory on Twitter, it'll be there as well. But I think cultist fans will be very happy with what's coming up. And so even if I'm not streaming on the channel, I think most people will be happy about it. So with that in mind, let's take a quick look and see what we can do for hosts. There's actually quite a few people playing tonight. I think in this case I'm gonna host Kilgore Trout. He's still playing the 2009 Wolfenstein game. Kilgore is a fellow Canadian, somebody who I am very fond of. He's somebody who does a lot of more classic games, but does them... it's stuff that kind of came out when he was... I mean, he's still really into gaming, but he talks a lot about what it was like to play it when it first came out. He's always fun to watch. Definitely somebody who... The other thing that's really impressive about him is that I knew him before he was a Twitch partner, and he achieved Twitch partnership in the time and kind of under the new system, which is probably one of the hardest ways to get it. So he's definitely somebody who knows streaming much better than I do. I met him through the GOG stream team, and he's definitely a very friendly guy. So do check him out. I will hopefully see you all on Friday. If not, if you just want the standard Cultist Simulator stream, that will be Wednesday. Now, there's a couple of details that I need to look into on that. So there is the potential that there is a technical issue that I run into that may prevent me from doing... Oh, hang on. I need to figure out my schedule here. I might be at Dirty Rectangles next week as it is, so it might be a moot point. Just give me one quick second here. Yeah, it's actually possible that next week I'm not streaming anyway because I'm at a local meetup. But one way or the other, there are some bigger Cultist Simulator things coming up. And one of them is going to be tomorrow, and then some of them will be happening on the stream here and just generally. So if I don't stream it on a regular day, it is because there is a small technical hiccup that is sort of a known quantity and unavoidable. But I'm working with someone to get that fixed. So I'm going to try and make it so that there's no interruptions, but I don't know. I hope you all like it, and I'll be able to pull the cover off this before too long. Anyways, thank you all for watching. Please do treat Kilgore Trout well, and we will see you Friday. Or if you want to watch Surviving Mars, there will be the vodcast tomorrow, but I'll leave that to you. You'll get the notification one way or the other, I'm assuming. Have a wonderful evening.